The Tale of Rhy Shen. Chapter 1. 999 Years.
Holy green fuck! Well, that is bloody fantastic. Calculated madness at its finest.
Alchemist Thoss's voice cut the stillness in the lab like a blade through thin paper. Gears clicked somewhere, as if the machines themselves were stunned. The air stank of ozone and burnt copper. Steam hissed through metal pipes, weaving trembling ribbons across the brass-lit room. In the center of the lab, 4 men in soot-stained robes stood frozen, goggles fogged, mouths half open. Alchemist Yesod was the first to break free from the room's paralyzing awe.
Bo-Yang, you reckless bastard! You actually managed to pull something out of nothing! And this time it's alive! It is a breathing humanoid, not just a pile of flesh and energy.
He moved toward the newcomer, compelled to reach out and touch him. Toes held him back.
Careful, Yesod. It still might be both.
The others exchanged nervous laughter, as if none of them truly believed what they had done.
Still? Look at him! That's a human! Or something close enough. This boy must have a special connection to the countless things.
On the metal platform they encircled, a young man lay motionless, breath shallow, skin pale as the inside of a shell. Thin strands of energy coiled around him, fading slowly into the dim air. Then his eyelids fluttered open. Light pierced his pupils, forcing the eyes to shut again immediately. But now his vision danced with red flashes. The world pressed in with unbearable weight. He tried to speak, but his own tongue felt foreign. He tried to remember, but memory was a colorless cloud in his head. Where had he been? Not somewhere. The young man remembered an absence without shape, a place where drifting might exist without direction, through a silence so pure it devoured every thought. For a moment he could not tell what was real. The 4 faces above him, or the echo of the emptiness still ringing in his head. He had been elsewhere. No, he had been nowhere. And now the world rained down on him. Noises, glares, and faces. The pale boy spoke in his mother tongue, more to himself than to anyone else.
I'm sorry.
The words scraped out like rust on metal, rattling and clanging. But to the others they were nothing more than a jumble of sounds devoid of meaning. Yesod clapped his hands in excitement.
I think he said something.
He sounds more like a bird than a human to me, Yesod. Maybe it is just hungry.
Alchemist Bo-Yang leaned over the boy, skepticism etched into every line of his face. After all, what proof did they have that a humanoid figure bore any resemblance to a true human?
Doesn't he seem bird-like to you?
He murmured, voice thin and edged with fascination. His head tilted at an odd angle, eyes gleaming with a curiosity that felt almost predatory. Before the tension could thicken further, his colleague's Thoss stepped forward.
Takes one to know one, you weird old cockatoo.
Thoss plunged his hand into his pocket, digging and fidgeting, before he retrieved something very small.
Here, boy. Let me help you communicate with us.
Before the boy could move, the man in the robe placed a buggy creature on his face. It crawled quickly up his ear. Chk, pft.
Ouch! Fuck.
After a tiny stench, the words of the men surrounding the new arrival suddenly made sense. Alchemist Thoss was pleased.
Perfect. The speech bug does its thing. I do love when the screaming phase is short.
Short? You call that short? My ears are bleeding.
Thoss ignored his colleague's complaints and turned to the newcomer, wearing the friendliest expression he could summon.
Can you understand me? Who are you, boy?
The boy still laid on the ground, covering his ear with his hand as if it wasn't too late to protect it from the speech bug. His lips trembled while he stared at his own hands, trying to remember what or who he was. He paused, searching the black corners of his mind.
I am Rhy Shen.
The name felt uncertain, like a memory borrowed from someone else, but it was the only anchor he had in this strange, whirring world.
Why does he sound so exhausted? Shouldn't he be more lively?
Yesod stood with his arms crossed, eyes narrowing in skepticism.
I mean, it's not like we awakened him from the dead or something. Or did we?
Toss gave a quick, sideways glance at the boy, eyes flickering with a trace of uncertainty at the ghostly figure.
Give him some space, Yesod. He's only been here for, what, 5 minutes?
6? And he's already swearing. Definitely human.
Or probably a bird.
Bo Yang shouted from the shelves. Rhy Shen pressed his hand to his forehead, trying to gather the fragments of memory. A name, a promise, a sentence. The memory crawled back into his mind like the speech bug in his ear, like a fried fish remembering the water it once swam in. His fate had been to remain in the ether for a millennium, 1,000 years of silence.
Had that time already ended?
A slow, chilling realization crept through Rhy Shen's forehead. This was no rebirth. He had existed before. Somewhere, somehow, in a place he could no longer name. How had he come to be here? Could his time in the ether have been something like time travel? Or worse, a punishment for a life long past? The thought coiled in his gut, like a cold wire, twisting and wrenching, leaving him hollow and unsteady. His mind drifted through the ether he came from. Thought did not come. Memory did not come. Only the faintest tremor of something deep within. And then it rose, a raw, simmering presence that had always been with him. Anger. Anger had been there from the beginning, coiled inside him like a hidden flame, and now it surged, dragging him back to his first, vivid memory of his previous existence. The world Rhy Shen remembered from his past was shiny and white. His people did not need machines or labs because they had long reached a godlike state by cultivating ki. The masters of this world grew stronger and stronger and absorbed more ki than the world could offer. They fed their arrogance and stopped training at all, becoming lazy gods full of hubris. To most, the elders' prophecies for young cultivators were nothing more than fortune sayings, easily brushed aside. Where others saw the prophecies as mere words, Rhy Shen saw law. The roar of the waterfall crashed around Rhy Shen, the water hitting him like a falling boulder, twisting his shoulder, threatening to drag him into the abyss below. Every fiber of his being burned with determination to withstand this force of nature.
I can do this. I will bring light.
He forced his hand under the torrent, teeth grinding, heart hammering. Others mocked him, seeing nothing but a dreamer, a fool longing to be more than he was. But he knew better.
My moment will come. I will fulfill my prophecy.
A sudden burst of laughter cut through the roar of the waterfall. From behind a tangle of bushes, a figure stepped lightly over the rocks, eyes sparkling with amusement.
Did you really just cheer for yourself like a fanboy, Rhy Shen? You are so delusional, even the waterfall is cringing. Every brat in the clan gets that same prophecy, you know. It's more a tradition than a promise.
At least I'm training while you're busy spying. Could you please mind your own business, Mio?
Mio's eyes widened slightly, a touch of pity flickering across her face.
Yeah, but training again?
Oh, of all people who could cross his ways in the middle of the forest, why did it have to be Mio? Rhy Shen didn't even dare to look at her. Her face, radiant as the sun, seemed capable of blinding him outright. He clenched his jaw, glaring but unable to hide the redness creeping into his ears. Filled with determination, he wiped dripping hair from his face and squared his shoulders, ready for the next attempt to withstand the waterfall.
Please, Rhy Shen. You're as dramatic as thunder and the moon.
When shit goes down, I'll be the only one ready to save you. You will thank me one day.
He stepped forward boldly, aiming to brace himself under the roaring waterfall. The water disagreed. With one mighty shove, it sent him tumbling into the calm lake below, like bread tossed into a pond.
Brilliant! Truly heroic. The Lightbringer, conquered by the powers of nature.
Rhy Shen plunged into the lake, desperate to disappear beneath the surface. He imagined himself gliding through the water like a stealthy crocodile, silent and unseen. Every stroke took him farther from the waterfall, farther from the world above, and, he hoped, farther from Mio. He emerged cautiously at the lake's far edge, just enough to peek out, and froze. Bright, sparkling eyes were already there, hovering mere inches from his own. Mio grinned silently, while Rhy Shen's face drained of color.
Damned! I thought I would be clever enough to slip beneath the waves unnoticed.
He was not. Instead, he found himself caught, staring into the mischievous triumph of someone who had clearly seen every awkward, flailing inch of his ridiculous plunge. Rhy Shen struggled against the waves to get out, but Mio was faster. With a fluid motion, she pulled him out. Every movement radiated a power far beyond the natural boundaries. She moved like a goddess, spoke like a goddess, and Rhy Shen could do nothing but watch, awed and anxious. He coughed, dripping wet, as she set him down on the stones at the shore. The sun leaned toward the horizon, a dull lump of coal against the glow that seemed to emanate from her alone. For a moment he fell silent, eyes fixed on her, his heart still battling the force of the water and the even greater force of her presence.
Have you heard they finally discovered where the Qilin nests?
She asked, with a smirk on her face. Rhy Shen's eyes widened. The news had reached him days ago, and though everyone was talking, he believed some things were better left untouched. The Qilin was a creature whispered of in legend, draped in celestial grace, feared and revered across all realms, and it never appeared without its brood. Myths said the creature carried a single egg through a lifetime of patient devotion, nurturing within it a pulsating heart of Qi, a power capable of eclipsing 100 worlds. No wonder the masters and cultivators hungered for it. Rhy Shen leaned back, palms braced on the gravel. His words were cold with outrage.
Grrr. The great grandmasters are so full of shit. They've drained so much Qi from the world that it groans under the weight of their power. Soon, it will collapse, and all they'll have left are ashes. And now they won't even leave the most divine creature in the universe alone? I won't be part of this. I want to break the cycle of madness, not feed it.
Mio tilted her head, her gaze piercing yet calm, and her voice carried the weight of certainty.
Maybe this is your lucky day, Rhy Shen. This is our chance to put the great grandmasters in their place.
Rhy Shen felt a flicker of pleasure at the thought, a rare warmth in his chest. Of course. What other choice was there? Start a war against the overpowered elite? And with whom? The upper class, Mio among, had leached the world of its vitality. Even the lowest social circles lived like monarchs, their comforts guaranteed. No one would ever be willing to upend that system. Now they had discovered the Qilin egg, a power capable of resolving the cascading problems born from their overpowered society. For the first time in a long while, The path forward seemed possible. Mayo's voice softened, persuasive, almost intimate.
Oh, Rhy Shen, you have no idea. The power inside a Chilean egg isn't just immense, it's unimaginable. Even you could rise to godhood with it. We could create a true, everlasting paradise.
Her words spoke of care, while her eyes spoke of greed.
I am serious. It will be our inaction that destroys the world. Taking the egg might be the best solution for everyone. This Chilean. It could bring true, lasting peace. Not just a fleeting balance, but harmony for all beings in the world. Its power could tip the scales, resolve the rot of their society, and, if wielded wisely, create a chance at lasting balance.
Yeah, because slaughtering its divine offspring will surely earn us a place in hell.
Don't be so quick to despair, Rhy Shen. Maybe it's true that everyone underestimated you your whole life. I felt it. That's why I came to tell you about the discovery. The egg. It's far too powerful to be harmed by mere chi extraction. It doesn't need to be destroyed, only relocated. That's all it takes.
Rhy Shen's eyes lingered on her with a mixture of doubt and hope stirring in their depths.
How do you know any of that? Do you blindly trust the old texts, or have you actually seen it with your own eyes?
We'll soon find out when the great grandmasters make their move.
Rhy Shen's anger flared. A vein was pulsing wildly at his throat.
They'll likely slaughter the Chilean, or consume its egg for themselves. Such power shouldn't belong to a few greedy wannabe gods. It should be a common resource for all.
Exactly why someone needs to get there first. And I believe that someone is us. You and me.
Obviously, Mio knew nothing of beasts. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared something so reckless. Yet Rhy Shen was far too polite to point that out to her face.
Pah! Even if by some miracle the Chilean doesn't tear us apart the moment we touch its egg, how long do you think our paradise will last? Until it hatches and the world goes dark?
Show a little respect, Rhy Shen. A Chilean isn't just some flying hoofed creature. It has reason and infinite power. Once the egg is in our hands, it will be far more receptive to our intentions. Don't you think this could be a chance to make it listen to us? You clearly know nothing about beasts! You always were better at moral speeches than action. You can go back chanting to the trees while I'll be the one who actually gets things done for once in her life.
Mio strode ahead, and without quite knowing why, Rhy Shen followed, drawn after her like a thought he should have abandoned. This is where his memory is already beginning to fade. He remembered his hands brushing her shoulder when she stopped and turned around. And in this exact moment, a single image burned into his heart. A face he would carry through the ether forever. A face that had once trusted him completely. Ugh, what happened next? Rhy Shen's memory blurred, slipping through his mind like water through his fingers. Had Mio kissed him? Or had he only imagined it, desperate enough to wish it into being? The ether swallowed the memory whole, leaving nothing but a hollow warmth and the faintest echo of what might have been. Maybe it was because he wanted to fulfill his fate. Maybe it was the fact that Mio saw him as capable enough to do what is right in the world. Whatever the reason, Rhy Shen decided to fulfill his prophecy by bringing this eternal source of power to the world. While the hills rolled beneath his steps, Rhy Shen's thoughts wandered back to Mio. Oh, this goddamn Mio, who had never laid eyes on a holy beast in her life. Rhy Shen did neither, but at least he had to work for every bit of chi he had. Mio had been spoon-fed chi since childhood, her immortality handed to her like an heirloom. She was one of them, the blessed few who never had to earn what others bled for. Her way wasn't truly wicked. It was simply what someone like her had been taught to believe was right. And she wasn't entirely wrong either. Rhy Shen knew that stealing wasn't the answer, but listening was. Doing it anyone else's way would have been unbearable. Convincing Mio to let him do this alone was easier than expected. Had she insisted on coming, he would have had to take her out of the picture for a while. A prospect neither of them would have enjoyed. On the road to the mountain range Mio called the Cheelins home, Rhy Shen spent most of the journey debating whether quitting counted as wisdom or cowardice. He had to remind himself at least a dozen times that abandoning the mission completely probably wasn't heroic from any point of view.
I have been training for a moment like this all my life. My chi is bound to nature due to relentless training and fighting lessons, and my willpower is strong enough to intimidate the wolves in the woods. If anyone in this world can solve this peacefully, it's probably me.
Rhy Shen climbed the jagged slope, chi coursing through him like molten magma. He assumed the Cheelin would be a bit protective at the summit. A bit. Mio had insisted they seize the egg first, strike quickly, claim the power. But every fiber of his being recoiled at the notion. He wanted to face the beast directly, meet it as an equal, and reason with it. Given the fact that the Cheelin was nothing less than a god, it wasn't too far-fetched to think that it might understand.
At least, this way is far more honorable than theft, and a beast of such superiority will respect that. I am willing to risk everything to try it, before chaos unfolds.
Rhy Shen's disciplined training for the unknown finally paid off. Each movement up the mountain was precise and effortless. He scaled the harsh rock face with uncanny steadiness. Soon, he reached a series of steps embedded into the stone. Their shiny surfaces gave the impression that someone must have hammered them into the stone eons ago. Rhy Shen's steps faltered as he neared the summit, breath caught between awe and disbelief.
Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this.
Every surface was etched with intricate carvings. The stone transformed into a sculpted cosmos, as if the mountain had been plucked from another star. In Rhy Shen's mind, the Cheelin was already there, serene and knowing, perhaps holding a delicate jade cup filled with golden tea, ready to acknowledge his courage and welcome him with understanding. Walking at the top of the holy mountain felt heavenly. Snow crunched beneath Rhy Shen's boots, each step sinking deep into the flawless white, leaving jagged scars across the otherwise perfect circular clearing. With every careless footfall, the smooth surface seemed to shudder under him, emitting a warm, healing light. The frozen surface cracked under his boots, opening more and more windows for the warm light to fill the place. On the far side of this clearing lay a vast nest, a depression in the bare rock, cradling enormous glowing eggs.
Why are there so many? I thought there'd be only one.
He scanned the horizon, searching for a sign of the Cheelin. Nothing. No shape, no glimmer of life, just stone and the quiet hum of cosmic energy.
Whoa. It's so warm and quiet here, despite the weather.
Confidence swelled in Rhy Shen. This was easy. He could take one of these eggs and leave. The almighty Cheelin might not even take notice, and Mio's revolution would become a full success. Rhy Shen stepped toward the largest egg, hands outstretched. And then the air tore apart behind him without announcement. Clouds collapsed into whirling towers that reached for the sky. The stars seemed to move, coalescing into a monstrous form that defied scale and reason. The Cheelin emerged from the cosmos above, descending like a celestial storm.
Fuck. I had no idea.
The monstrum was colossal. Rhy Shen had expected a beast as huge as his house, or maybe as huge as the White Palace in the capital. This monstrum was bigger than the capital itself, covering the sky with its enormous face and shoulders alone. Its eyes burned with a hellish fire, antlers spanning like bridges of light, claws rending the very snow beneath its feet. The creature's roar split the air, a sound that could flatten mountains and boil rivers, shaking Rhy Shen to his core. Hell had arrived at the summit, and it was personally offended by Rhy Shen. He planted his feet firmly, chest thrust forward and shoulders squared, trying to radiate confidence. His hands were raised slightly in a gesture of peace.
I come in peace, Your Majesty. I did not intend to disturb you.
This made the Qilin even more furious. A storm of wrath erupted from the creature that bent the sky and cracked the mountain. Rhy Shen gripped one of the glowing eggs in his hands, heart hammering, and told himself a fragile truth.
I'm sure it won't strike, as long as I carry this.
His stomach dropped as he realized, if the great Grand Masters didn't intervene, this was nothing less than the apocalypse incarnate. The summit shattered behind him with every beat of the beast's heart, carving a cathedral of destruction in snow and rock. Rhy Shen's breath came ragged, his mind sharp with fear and calculation. One wrong step, one misjudged motion, and everything, himself, the egg in his hands, Mio and the world, would end in fire and cosmic wrath. Rhy Shen ran until the air turned thin and sharp in his lungs. Meteors slammed into the mountain to his left. To the right, the ground split open, spitting dust and shards of stone. Behind him, the mountain groaned, a hollow, dying sound that belonged not to rock, but to something older, deeper. The world folded in on itself as if it had been nothing more than a painted shell. Peaks sank like melting wax. Valleys caved inward. Rhy Shen glanced back once, just once, and saw the Qilin's colossal shape dissolve into darkness. It didn't pursue him. It didn't have to. Whatever it had unleashed was already spreading, black veins crawling through the sky, swallowing the night until even the moonlight felt borrowed. By the time the capital's crystal spires came into view, Rhy Shen's legs were lead, and his arms still clutched the glowing orb to his chest. He almost laughed. He'd made it. Somehow, against all reason. He'd made it. Almost, at least. He didn't even get close to the capital before 6 silhouettes descended from the heavens, their robes like liquid obsidian. Sparks of their fury were crackling in the air. Gravity seemed to bow in deference as the great Grand Masters of the capital set their feet upon the earth. The foremost among them stepped forward, every movement deliberate, radiating authority, while the others lingered behind in the shadows, silent and watchful. Like a parliament of owls, their eyes fixed on him with cold scrutiny.
Do you have any idea what you've done, boy?
The first Grand Master glared at him with eyes like polished stone.
I'm so sorry, Master. I thought I could reason with the Qilin. Please, take this egg. Maybe you can still make things right. Maybe we can return it, instead of fighting the beast.
Out of nowhere, the great Grand Master raised a hand and struck the orb from Rhy Shen's hands, sending it crashing to the ground and shattering into pieces.
What the fuck are you doing? This egg was our chance to...
This isn't the egg. This is... excrement. It's Qilin dung, you absolute idiot!
Rhy Shen's stomach suddenly felt like liquid steel, burning itself into his flesh. The silence that followed was profound and terrible.
You're joking.
Oh, we wish we were. The real egg is embedded in the mountain. It is the untouched summit itself. The one you so gallantly stomped on.
Rhy Shen's knees went weak. His legs threatened to buckle beneath him. Behind him, forests evaporated in flames, lakes boiled into steam, and the very horizon bended as if it had loosened its screws.
Oh, hell. I fucked it up.
Who could have guessed that something as mighty as a killing egg would also be so ridiculously fragile? This was hardly fair.
You've doomed us all with your filthy greed for endless chi. The Cheelin is enraged. The city is collapsing. And why? Because you crossed a sacred line no living being should ever cross, Rhy Shen.
The Grand Masters exchanged a few tired, resigned glances. Above them, the white sun bled crimson, as though even the light had given up on the world, especially on Rhy Shen.
Well, we can't appease the Cheelin now. Chaos reigns, and it is a matter of hours before the whole land crumbles into pieces. The world's collapsing. Any suggestions before it's too late?
The great Grand Master turned, slowly, an eyebrow arched, as if amused by the futility of it all. But his colleagues were serious.
Throw him off the edge, into the void. It won't fix anything, but it might make us feel slightly better.
The others agreed. They seized Rhy Shen by the arms, their grip like the weight of steady cliffs.
Leave me alone!
Right. If the Cheelin kills us all, fine. If it doesn't, do us one favor, boy. Vanish from our sight.
The Grand Master wrote an invisible spell into the air with his fingers. An abyss opened, awaiting Rhy Shen, the traitor.
No! This is a misunderstanding. I didn't want this.
Dying is far too gentle a punishment for an idiot like you. You were destined to bring light, and all you brought over the world was shit. Literally shit. I swear to the stars. If we survive any of this, we will get back to you 1,000 years from now to give you a proper punishment.
With that, the others hurled Rhy Shen into the abyss.
And don't forget to take your pile of shit with you.
As his body and soul vanished into nothingness, spinning through smoke and shattered light, Rhy Shen couldn't help thinking that there must have been a right path he somehow missed. The last image burned into his mind was Mio's flawless, radiant face, but the expression shifted to sheer disappointment. If the void had left even a fragment of his consciousness intact, that thought alone would have undone him. Yet, mercifully, everything ended for Rhy Shen in that instant. 1,000 years in the abyss, they said. Perhaps the Grand Masters had lied, intending to leave him there for eternity. Perhaps they had all perished, missing their chance to revive him. Or perhaps, just perhaps, we will never know, for something beyond the world's reckoning had intervened, snatching Rhy Shen's fate before it could fully take or lose its form.
Holy green fuck! Well, that is bloody fantastic. Calculated madness at its finest.
The Tale of Rhy Shen, Chapter 2, Inner Callings. One could fairly argue that Bo Yang was, by all sane standards, the most unhinged alchemist in the guild of Teel, though none would dare deny his brilliance. This was the first time Bo Yang had opened a sphere with precision, far better than the random, disturbing glitches that usually tore through Teel. Yet something about this young arrival that called himself Rhy Shen felt off. A wild spark gleamed in Bo Yang's eyes as they fixed on Rhy Shen, who could scarcely sit upright after his strange arrival in this world.
Our new arrival looks like he's made of clouds. I want to inhale him. We have the technology to inhale him without Juru hocus pocus, do we?
Yesod laid his forehead against his fingertips and tried to soften his temples.
Bo-Yang, please behave yourself. If anything, we should kill him and transfer his Aetham life essence into charm stones. We could get hundreds of years of raw energy, or light up the entire free city for a few miserable hours.
Manic curiosity danced in Bo-Yang's eyes when he heard Yesod's words.
Utterly delicious! Truly, what a tragedy it would be to waste such an opportunity to fill our charm stones.
Rhy Shen felt the weight of their gazes, as if they could see through his very bones while they kept discussing his fate. Alchemist Thos surveyed his colleagues from behind the magnified lens of his enormous round glasses.
Gentlemen, let us be reasonable. This Rhy Shen is just a child. Look how afraid he is.
Bo-Yang rolled one eye in irritation.
Philosophy won't run the machines, Toss. Power does.
Toss' lips quirked into a smile, formed from amusement and calculation.
Oh, I'm aware. But why waste him, when we could send him to the Black March Forest to collect charm stones for our cause? We haven't even asked where he came from. Maybe his prior location had something to do with the fact that the sphere actually worked this time. Have you spared a thought on that, Bo-Yang?
Bo-Yang's behavior made no sense to Thos whatsoever. The mad alchemist had spent nearly a decade trying to coax a living being out of the countless things. Yet Thos still wasn't certain whether this Rhy Shen had arrived from anywhere at all. Finally, he turned his attention to the boy, his gaze sharpened behind the magnified lens, appraising Rhy Shen like a specimen under glass.
Can you fight, ghostly boy?
Without a second thought, Thos snatched a copper pipe from the table and hurled it straight at him.
Ah! What the?
Rhy Shen flinched and threw up his hand to shield himself, but the pipe passed cleanly through his chest and struck the floor behind him. Rhy Shen's astonishment outshone even the disbelief of the four alchemists. He reached for the piece of metal, only for his hand to pass through it, as though he were made of vapor.
Fascinating.
What? What was that?
As Rhy Shen rose, his pale aura deepened, spreading outward like ink dissolving in water. He struggled to make sense of himself or even his surroundings. Every wall of the room was a tangle of pipes and cables, all converging on the circular platform where he had appeared. Rhy Shen couldn't tell if there was even a sky here, only the tight, metallic maze surrounding him.
Is this hell? Maybe a new punishment from the Grandmasters? Are you even real?
His questions went unheard. The alchemists had already leaned together, absorbed in their own discussions, as if they were deciding what to have for lunch.
Excuse me?
Again, his voice was swallowed immediately. The four high-ranking alchemists barely noticed his frustration. Even with the speech bug in place, Rhy Shen couldn't make sense of their words. They flowed past him like indecipherable code. Every now and then, a head would rise from the circle, scanning him with suspicion before sinking back into the murmuring group.
Allow me for once to utter the obvious aloud. This arrival could become a problem.
For the first time during today's sphere opening process, Alchemist Herma spoke. In a heartbeat, the room went silent, even the tubes at the machines. When the Secretary of Safety in the Alchemist Guild used her voice, it signaled an immediate crisis. That was without question. Alchemist Yesod couldn't agree more and took the matter seriously.
Exactly. The boy is unstable, hardly the efficient Aetham worker we expected.
Yesod didn't even realize that Herma's warning had meant something entirely different. In fact, she saw the same immense potential in Rhy Shen that Thos recognized in this homunculus-like weakling. But beneath the surface, Yesod was already calculating how to erase him for good. If not stone, could fire be wielded to snuff this ghostly anomaly out of existence? Both Herma and Yesod spoke with the crisp certainty of those accustomed to precision. They had anticipated a reliable, controllable force from the sphere. not this half-formed spectral anomaly that called himself a name.
Don't be so negative, my dear colleagues.
Bo Yang bent down his head to his own theatrical words and rose his arms up high before he declared,
Today, we have reached milestones in the development of the atom utilization. No matter if it ever becomes a problem, we will be strong enough to deal with any problem by the time this arrival could do us any harm.
Oh, he will, believe me.
Herma didn't even try to show any respect to the other alchemists, openly acting as if they were morons compared to her intellect.
Excuse me?
Summoning every ounce of courage, Rhy Shen rose abruptly.
I demand to know what is happening to me. Where am I? What year is it? Where are the Grandmasters? Is Mio still alive? I have a right to know before you get to talk shit about me.
Boy, I'll tell you everything you want. Just for heaven's sake, take a sheet and do not break anything.
Thos slapped the back of his left hand over his eyes and fumbled wildly through the cluttered shelves, finally yanking a lab smock off the metal rack and shoving it toward him. In order to take the cloak, Rhy Shen finally loosened the grip of his fingers. A glowing lump slipped from his hand and hit the floor. Its light faintly rippling through the smoke in trembling shades of gold.
I can't even! Did our arrival just lay an egg? I told you that he is bird-like.
While the others were still cringing, Thos's eyes sharpened.
Interesting.
He clutched the glowing orb before anyone could give too much thought to the moment's significance.
That should answer the question if this boy has any value to us.
In the same elegant movement, Thos closed the distance to Rhy Shen, letting his hand glide through the spectral face in front of him with an unsettling fascination while he spoke.
I get it. You want answers. That is only reasonable. Listen. All we can tell you for now, boy, is this. Nothing from your prior life still matters.
Rhy Shen's face hardened, though he knew the man was absolutely right. Whatever had happened to Meo and the others was not for him to know. Ever. Perhaps this uncertainty was still part of the punishment he so thoroughly deserved.
My dear colleagues, this specimen from the sphere is coming with me. I need to conduct a series of experiments to assess his physical state and determine the extent of his vitality.
Though his tone was gentle, yet carried the certainty of command. He let Rhy Shen's puzzled face come into focus and stared straight into his jade-green eyes.
I'll make you my protégé. What do you think of that? I have a few other scholars, you know. They are just very, very different from you.
Rhy Shen's spectral form hovered, still, as something deep inside him stirred.
Do not be anxious, ghostly boy. I am confident we can identify some practical applications for an entity like you, even if you are incapable of producing any atom.
What? Why should I follow you? I don't trust you one damn bit. In fact, you are all completely untrustworthy, waking me up in this shady cellar that could be anywhere in the White Kingdom. And you haven't answered any of my goddamn questions.
Rhy Shen swung his elbows to push Thos, only to feel the alchemist's form melt away through him, soft and insubstantial as drifting snow.
Noted. Aggression persists, despite total lack of effect. Remarkably primitive.
Yesod tugged the collar of his long apron up and drew his shoulders in, bracing himself. He didn't even make an effort to speak to Rhy Shen. Instead, he turned to his colleague.
Very well, Thos. That is enough. You may take him, but you will assume full responsibility before the lead alchemist for any consequences. We cannot even confirm whether this specimen could be utilized to power our machinery, assuming we can even kill it. Proceed with your investigation. Find out, and quickly, if a method exists for utilization, termination, or both. Report back immediately with any findings. Is that clear?
Those three colleagues stood shoulder to shoulder, isolating him as the sole target of blame for Bo Yang's reckless decision to open the sphere before the reactor was fully charged.
The Jurul people won't be pleased if they find out where the ghostly entity came from. In fact, no one will. Some things must remain secret. None of us knows this better than you, Thos.
Thos laughed with a slight bitterness in his voice and waved the concerns off with his hand. He nodded to Rhy Shen, giving him no other option but to follow him. Rhy Shen hesitated, but staying in this cellar with three murderous scientists didn't seem like the wisest option. So he followed the alchemist in the long white apron, feeling the weight of resistance deep in his bones. Behind them, Bo Yang's mad eye never left the boy until they went out of sight. And above it all, the machines pulsed, alive and hungry, already sensing the storm this ghostly boy had carried into their midst. On their way through the winding corridors of the Alchemist Guild, Rhy Shen couldn't help but imagine what greatness might lie beyond the endless stairways in the dark. But his hopes were cut short almost at once. Alchemist Thos led him downward instead, with cold bronze railings beneath his hand sinking into the building's mechanical depths. Rhy Shen's chest tightened.
Wait, we're going down?
Exactly. We don't want you to accidentally slip away, you know?
Thos knocked against the corridor walls as he stepped down the winding stairway.
Obviously, the concrete of the earth is too dense to swallow you. We want to keep it that way. Now, let me show you something nice.
He clapped his hands twice, and a hidden mechanism sprang to life, flooding the high-walled stairway with golden light. Brass inlays gleamed along the polished walls, reflecting the glow and casting sharp geometric patterns across the opposite surfaces.
Impressive, isn't it? You like the interior? I think you cannot achieve the extraordinary in an ordinary environment. All this has been built in just 6 years. Can you believe that? The modern Aetham fusion makes things like this possible. Amazing, isn't it?
Rhy Shen's eyes lingered on the intricate, artful ceiling as he descended the stairway, yet Thos could sense the restraint behind his gaze. In his former life, gold had been a chain. Profit never came without cost. He wondered what kind of imbalance had given rise to such dazzling beauty.
What is this Aetham fusion? Are you still cultivating chi in this world?
Even if this world was entirely different from his reality, the same rules of physics should still apply. At least, that's what Rhy Shen told himself.
Those are two very different questions about very different things, Ghost Boy. You will never understand anything if you keep being so diffuse. But you do have a good sense for the forces that drive the universe. Indeed, Aetham fusion is a form of extracting and storing energy, much like all this savage meditation hocus-pocus, if you will. Turns out it's less ravenous. I'd even call Aetham fusion the altruistic form of energy cultivation.
The halls grew narrower, the air heavier. Dormitories passed by, then more labs, each door whispering of experiments long forgotten or still humming with strange energy.
Ah, yes. Here we are. One heartbeat, if you please.
Only when Thos pushed open a heavy door at the corridor's end did light spill in. Real, blinding light that forced Rhy Shen to shield his eyes.
What the hell is this?
The sunlight poured through the immense trapezoid windows, painting the hall in shifting hues of gold and green. Beyond the prism windows, the Argo Sea roared, its vast waves rising higher than mountains, their white crests like rows of teeth stretching endlessly to the horizon. Rhy Shen stepped closer, his eyes widening as the spray shimmered like liquid emerald below.
I have never seen any ocean,
he whispered softly, almost afraid to break the silence. The only water Rhy Shen had ever known was the riverbed where he'd trained his whole life for. Nothing, apparently. Thoz stood beside him, arms crossed, a trace of pride glinting behind the reflection of his glasses.
It's not just an ocean. It is the Argo Sea. We are lucky to see it in its full glory tonight. Ah, beautiful, isn't it? Let me enlighten you, ghostly boy. The planet was originally named after this natural force, you know? Our estimates suggest that in this particular state of the sea, 99% of the planet's surface is covered by it.
Rhy Shen watched the rolling waves under a green moon, light glinting in his eyes. Even if he was left for millions of years within the ether, this was not his home. It was a brand new place to discover, with its own rules, and somehow he was relieved by that realization. Thoz nodded, as if sensing the thought. He paused, his mind running through possibilities, with his eyes open, yet distant, almost asleep.
Show me your hands, now.
He blurred through Rhy Shen's ghostly hands, his motion twisting them like smoke in the air, unnerving him. It didn't take long for Rhy Shen to snap.
Why do you keep doing that? This is not quite pleasant for me, old man. Do you think I'm dead?
I'm not sure,
he answered mid-motion, his hands still blurring through Rhy Shen's form like vapor.
There has to be a better explanation than demonic hocus-pocus. Hold still.
Rhy Shen obeyed, holding out his hands. Thoz proceeded his experiment. He fished a small bottle from his pocket and let it drop into Rhy Shen's palms.
No interaction with dense physical matter. Just as I expected.
His voice was calm, precise, with a faint edge of satisfaction.
Very interesting. Your shoulders are barely dense enough to hold the lab apron you're wearing. If you concentrate hard enough, you'll maybe able to turn the page of a book or lift a chicken feather. Not suitable for any Atham looting activity. Now let me try something else before we give up.
With pointed intent, Thoz retrieved the glowing orb Rhy Shen had lost in the sphere lab. He held it above Rhy Shen's hands for a second, watching the reflection of the trembling light in his specimen's eyes, before letting it fall.
Wow! Did you see that? You caught it!
Thos's eyes gleamed behind his glasses.
Now, perhaps we just need to adjust the focus a little.
He focused on the mysterious orb, almost licking it with his tongue out of curiosity.
What even is this glowy thing, boy? Where did you get something like that?
Rhy Shen didn't dare speak of the glowing piece of divine dung his people had flung at him when they cast him out. Still, a nagging suspicion lingered in Thoz.
I don't care if you tell me. I'll find out anyway. Your chamber's over there, left door. Eat and sleep if you need, and do not touch the cauldron upstairs.
His eyes lingered on the green sea, black towers rising like obsidian teeth from the far-off waves.
I will give you one advice, and only one, so listen closely. This is what the lead alchemist calls World Zero. We know it as Ago. The Juru have several other words for it. You are standing on the beautiful peninsula of Teel. But one thing is clear. This is not where you came from. So, adapt, and be quiet for now. This is your new chance to make something of yourself. Will you take it? Or will you remain standing there, complaining about everything? We'll talk tomorrow, ghostly boy.
With a friendly expression, the alchemist turned around and went towards the door they came from.
Wait, you old fuck! What do I do now? Don't you want to explain to me where we are? What is this guild? What are you researching here?
Such insolence. And here I thought you were curious, not rude.
Slowly but surely Thos lost his temper. He spun around, raising his hand. In the center of his palm, a bright red stone glowed, set into an intricate piece of jewelry that seemed to fuse with his skin, as if the gem powered some hidden mechanism.
Ah!
The blow of energy that emerged from Thos's hand was so strong that Rhy Shen's body vanished into dust for a moment, before regaining itself in its ghostly form. Behind him, the collapsing bookshelves erupted in a storm of dust.
I said, we'll talk tomorrow. First lesson for you, arrival. Learn to follow orders. Stop acting like you can tell right from wrong. Ha! You're as judgmental as death. But the way I see it, you're only right about one thing so far. You don't know a particle of truth about this world. You get me?
Suddenly, the stark feeling that he had known nothing in his past life either weighed down on Rhy Shen like a stone upon his chest. He realized the weight of not knowing would lay around his neck for life, bearing the question of whether his mistakes and sacrifices had truly mattered.
That's not fair. I'm only asking questions here.
Yes, that will become a problem. For now, please accept this small gift bestowed upon us by the modern world, a pastime universally enjoyed.
He reached into his pocket, pulled out a hand-sized, shiny object, and held it like an open book.
The Ishi mirror is a great device against boredom. I bet you'll find out by yourself how it works. Now rest and wait. And don't touch anything.
Thos left the room, the glowing orb clasped in his hands. Rhy Shen remained alone, staggering under a wave of disbelief, his mind twisting around the rural world outside, this labyrinthine building, the goddamned mirror he just received, and his reflection in it, still boyish, but already crinkled and, oh, so tired. Sleep had turned its back on the one they called Ghost Boy. Rhy Shen sat in silence in front of the round mirror Thos gave him as a pastime. He couldn't stand looking at his own reflection, so he leaned back and watched the rocky ceiling through the surface.
The alchemists were right. I am even more useless in this life than in the previous one. The first thing they wanted to know was if I was able to fight. If I can't even touch a thing or hold a sword, my fate here will be no different from the last hell I've already lived through.
He centered all his attention on the mirror, stretching his fingers toward it, brushing against a weight that seemed almost real. A curious warmth pulsed through him, and for a heartbeat, it felt as though he might succeed. But then the reflection of the mirror blurred. The image shifted suddenly, pulling his attention away.
What the hell is this supposed to be?
The glow of an entirely different world seized him, and his concentration snapped. Could it be that Rhy Shen was losing touch, not only to matter but to reality itself? Whatever it was, the mirror refused to move under his touch. His fingers slipped through the shiny material on the table.
I can't even keep my vision right. Something is entirely wrong with me.
Frustration flared as he sank back, realizing he still lacked the connection to his own body, trapped between worlds. Rhy Shen's gaze drifted upward, following the sunlight reflected from the mirror on the table. The upper gallery glowed in streaks of orange and green, almost empty, save for a simmering cauldron at its center. The gallery at the main floor where Rhy Shen stood was crowded with books, papers, and odd cast bronze statues, perhaps Tho's own handiwork. Several wooden doors were carved into the bookshelves, one of them standing open. Beyond it lay Rhy Shen's chamber, with a simple cot and an old red carpet, quiet and still.
Fine, let's call it a day. I'll rest, just as Thaw said, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. This damn mirror thing is utter bullshit anyway.
I knew you wouldn't have the patience to understand your little mirror gift from Thos. You are very impatient, kid.
From the farthest depths of his skull, a voice suddenly whispered into Rhy Shen's mind. He whirled around, prepared to strike.
What? Who is this? Is someone in this room?
He scanned the room once more. Apart from the big, burning furnace upstairs, the hall lay completely empty.
Ha! I swear, never in all my long, eventful life have I seen a whiny, useless, pale white fish face like yours. And well, your intellect perfectly matches the impression. Rhy Shen.
Rhy Shen returned to the door to take another look at the chamber.
Hello? Someone here?
The great hall took on a bluish-grey hue, with only the Ishi mirror on the table and the cauldron in the upper gallery emitting warmth and light.
Old Man Toss, is this you? Maybe it was stupid to trust him.
Oh, I promise you, Thos, and everyone in this fancy new residence of yours is so beneath me. However, that's what I meant in the first place. Questions, questions. You are questioning everything, even yourself, don't you? How about going with the flow? That's not something you do, I suppose, you dumb fish.
Rhy Shen was urged to ask the next important question.
Is this a fucking joke again?
It felt like it cost him the last bit of his mind to swallow it in anger. No soul was in sight. Only the green light of the moon, sinking beyond the horizon, danced along the bare walls.
Ha ha. You are, in fact, even more stupid than you look. What a disheartening realization for me. I see. This is not going to be easy.
Who are you?
The voice ignored his question deliberately.
If I were told to spend time with a secret mirror, just like you actually do, coincidentally. If I was in your particular situation, I'd probably take a proper look at this mysterious item. Unlike your completely lackluster, hopelessly clueless attempt. You absolute fool.
Still not knowing where the voice came from, Rhy Shen just rolled his eyes upwards to give an answer.
I tried to get in touch with the material and pick it up, so leave me be.
Ha! There's your next problem. You have to focus on things before you connect. Is that so hard to get with logical thinking alone? You really needed a secret voice in your ear to understand that.
So you're the buggy thing in my ear?
As the realization struck, Rhy Shen tried to reach the speech bug in his ear to rip it out.
Of course not, dumb fish. The audacity to compare me with an eloquent insect. Ha! I am using your speech bug to speak to you. That's what it is for, you see? One of us two should stop debating and start watching the stupid mirror.
Driven by curiosity, Rhy Shen returned to the table where the Ishi mirror lay, still facing upwards. He leaned closer, eyes narrowing, and peered into its surface. At first he saw absolutely nothing.
Looks familiar.
The reflection wavered again, but this time Rhy Shen didn't let his consciousness drift back to the physical world.
You've got to be kidding me.
He saw it with his own eyes. The mirror now framed a cozy, old-fashioned bar, instead of the darkened lab ceiling. The perspective was strange, yet intimate. He saw it through the eyes of the bartender. Warm amber light spilled across rough wooden counters, the hiss of a kettle mingling with the soft murmur of conversation. Hands moved, ladling soup into bowls and sliding clay mugs across the bar to friendly faces. Patrons laughed easily, leaning into one another's stories. Their smiles were wide and unguarded. The simple comfort of it, the gentle rhythm of shared moments, filled Rhy Shen with a warmth he hadn't realized he'd missed. It woke his urge to belong, far more than the geometrically precise, overly polished style of his home, or the over-decorated guild Foss and his alchemist friends had built for themselves.
As it happens, I was the one who created this specific Ishi mirror. But don't you dare saying a word about that in front of Thos. This model is called the Beholder, so don't hesitate to scream at the drunken ducks in the mirror. They can't hear you. Most of them are dead today anyway.
So, does the bartender know he's being watched?
Naturally not, you foolish simpleton. As the product name implies, the Beholder is built as a one-way mirror, designed to jump to a single, explicit point in time and space. If it gives you any peace of mind, know that the event you've just witnessed happened long ago. Though it happens to involve someone I coincidentally know myself. Haha.
Rhy Shen focused back on the lab, with the Argo Sea still dancing behind the artfully designed window sight. He checked the surrounding bookshelves once more, before the voice interrupted him again.
Ah, searching for me, are you? Not a scrap of sense in that head of yours, is there? I could be here, or there, or anywhere.
Rhy Shen instinctively whirled around. The voice echoed in his head, intrusive and sharp.
I did not allow this observation by others, and neither did the bartender.
Oh, he did actually. He is still one of my protégés, you see. But then, I suppose you've already drawn your little conclusions. How delightfully predictable.
It dawned on Rhy Shen that the voice must have a mirrored source somewhere, and that this jerk had managed to convert it into a one-way directive line connected to his speech bug.
Let me guess. This alchemist, Thos, doesn't know anything about our little connection, right? Otherwise, you would have talked much earlier.
Screw those mentally retarded alchemists. They worship their speedy machines like the Juru worship the gods in their cute little stories. There are far more important things in the world than wealth, don't you think? But, as it happens, we're still on the same side. How lucky for you, that you found someone to answer your questions. Someone to help you smooth things over with the alchemists. They are not easy to work with, you see. And the other factions on this contemptible peninsula? Even worse. Truly dreadful discussion partners.
That would make 2 new masters in a single day for Rhy Shen. Perhaps there really was a way to shed light on whatever this life was trying to hand him.
You can call me M, or M, or whatever you like. Just don't say a word to that pathetic Thos, all right? Are we on the same page here, Rhy Shen?
Was there really any other choice? The more Rhy Shen understood about this world, the more his path seemed to unfold. If he followed it straight, enduring every pain that came his way, perhaps this relentless, shitty feeling of being a worthless piece of garbage might finally begin to fade.
The cauldron on the gallery is interesting, don't you think? Maybe there's something to be found, maybe not. I, for one, definitely won't be going up there.
Taking the hint, Rhy Shen didn't bother with the ladder. Instead, he scrambled over the shelves as if they were made of sand, moving with surprising ease toward the cauldron. Before coming too close, he stopped, arms crossed, half expecting that this mysterious voice might seize control of his body through whatever mirror thing it possessed.
Is this a test, you smartass? I see through your manipulative tone.
Oh, good for you.
The man in Rhy Shen's head chuckled and audibly sipped from a cup at the other end of their telepathic connection.
So, to be more direct, your first assignment is to go into the fire.
Into the what?
Rhy Shen's dark eyebrows rippled. He heard the words, but they did not make any sense to him.
You mean, take something out of the cauldron?
No, I would have said that if I meant that. Were you raised by ducks? You go through the venting window into the Ishi oven. You'll see. It won't do anything. Just a light brush on the skin. Nothing more. Your coat will catch fire, yes, but honestly, it makes you look even more deplorable. As long as you don't stand in flames, which is without exception very fancy, even on a fool like you. Can you hear the fire crackling? Do what you do best. Think about something else. Nothing will happen to you, I promise.
Trusting people had never ended well for Rhy Shen, and anyone who had ever called him a friend had come to deeply regret it. But there was a spark in that fire, something that leapt into his hollow core, igniting a pulse. And he followed it. The Tale of Rhy Shen, Chapter 3, Reflections. The cauldron in Thos's lab whistled, as if seized by a fever of excitement. This voice, calling itself M, was certainly not to be trusted, and yet something deep in Rhy Shen's chest pulled him irresistibly toward the chaotic flames, just as M had suggested. Without hesitation, he plunged headfirst into the huge furnace. His borrowed apron disintegrated instantly, pulverized to dust by the heat and brilliance surrounding him. Flames roared and twisted, licking his skin yet leaving him unharmed.
Rah! This is incredible!
The air shimmered with heat, bending reality around him. A low, vibrating hum pulsed through the chamber, while the flames twisted and writhed, girdling him like living metal.
I have never felt so alive.
Raw energy coursed through his veins, igniting and warming something that had been entirely cold before. But, again, it didn't take long before the mysterious voice of M completely disenchanted the moment.
What an incredibly foolish thing to say. How long have you lived exactly? You don't look older than 16. 16 is a very pathetic age to say things like that.
How did you know this would even work?
Rhy Shen flicked at tiny particles of black ash clinging to his skin, amazed by a shower of sparks around him.
Well. I had no clue if it would work. First time trying it here.
What?
Grrr.
Hearing this, Rhy Shen's eyes flared, and the flames around him rose in kind. A dark tint bled into their glow, as if his fury had poisoned the light.
Are you fucking kidding me, Em? I could have instantly died, you ass-fried, shit-sodden, goddamn...
Excuse me? I think the speech bug just burned out. I cannot hear you.
Unfucking believable.
You are the most unhinged little smug I've met in a long while, ghost boy Rhy Shen. Didn't you dive into the cauldron head first all on your own? Since you're obviously still alive and kicking, let's put that recklessness to good use, Look around. You should see some Ishimiras in the making in there.
Indeed, the inside of the oven was lined with 9 round pedestals, each crowned with a molten drop of reflective silver. In their shifting surfaces flickered fragments of other lives, fleeting visions of vast landscapes, walls of steel, blood, and calloused hands at work. Rhy Shen leaned closer and wondered in silence.
Wow. Funny how creatures on every star have always lived the same lives, just painted in different colors.
Well, I'll just ignore your bottomless exaggeration there. You are still new to sphere technology after all.
So you do still hear me, you fucking comedian.
Well, yes, maybe. So look, these Ishimiras are but humble echoes of the one at the table you so boldly spied upon. Their reach through space and time is weak, limited to the immediate neighborhood. Garbage, if you ask me. But, in a delightful twist, we actually have a use for this cheap-ass kind of Ishimira in our first little experiment. All you need to do is place a single hair into one of the molten drops. It shall bind the mirror instantly to something entangled deeply with your soul, which makes distance and time irrelevant.
So you think I can peek into my old life?
Those words rang like a promise to Rhy Shen. Since his arrival in this world, his thoughts had been consumed by the fate of his people. Perhaps M's experiment might finally reveal some clue of their whereabouts. Unfortunately, he didn't even see the true answer slipping past him, swallowed by the frenzy of his own thoughts.
And you didn't tell the alchemists I met earlier anything about this?
The poor deluded alchemists. They do not believe in this field of science. And so, they will fumble endlessly with these randomly focused Ishi mirrors, utterly useless in their hands. What exquisite irony! After all these years of labor, there are still forces of nature they cannot even begin to understand.
Rhy Shen's eyes flicked from mirror to mirror as he plucked a single black strand from his messy hair, just as M had instructed. He chose the mirror at the center, watching a figure light candles in a hall awash with light, and let his unflammable hair fall into it. The reflection in the mirror shifted instantly. Rhy Shen's hope to see Mio's face, his homeworld, and the people he had failed so utterly, nearly blinded him to what was actually there.
So, what do you see?
M's impatience was clear in every word.
Nothing. There is nothing.
In truth, it was less than nothing. Staring into the altered Ishi mirror felt like being stripped of perception at that very spot. After all, that was Rhy Shen's closure. Darkness. No hope, no mystery, no glory. No ending at all.
Nothing indeed. A disappointing void is all I can see from my vantage as well. It is remarkable, truly, how incredibly empty you are, kid.
Rhy Shen said nothing, letting M's words gnaw at him from the inside.
What binds you so tightly to the void? It seems like darkness courses through you to your very core. Perhaps this explains why the laughably weak sphere, which Bo Yang opened, produced you, instead of a full entity from a vibrant world.
From his vantage point beyond his own Ishi mirror, M could not perceive the subtle change in the cauldron. The flames around Rhy Shen darkened and cooled, as if drawing the heat from the white flames that danced around him.
But I clearly remember my people. Mio.
Do you remember their faces, or just a feeling? The mind can be tricky, you know.
Frustrated, Rhy tried stepping back to leave the inside of the cauldron. But something was wrong.
What the? Oof. Ah.
The metal wall wouldn't yield. His muscles coiled, eyes widening.
M, something's wrong. I can't get out.
The oven grid crackled with energy, ensnaring him in a lattice of molten metal and heat. Breathing hard, Rhy Shen gathered himself and focused on his surroundings, every nerve alight.
I don't know, kid. Well, at least you won't die in there, However, if you're still trapped when Thos arrives, we're in real trouble. If brute force fails, I'd try something weaker if I was you. Maybe the same way you came in, you panic-stricken, headless little chicken.
Rhy Shen glared at the air grid, fury burning in his eyes. This ominous M had a point there. Swallowing his pride, he focused on the grilled barrier and slipped into a wall of cold air. Sparks trailed behind him as he emerged into the lab, sooted in black, shallow on the inside, but alive. By now, the sun had fully risen outside the lab window, already slipping beyond view. Rhy Shen drew in the cool air, but his attention was caught by the subtle shift in the room's colors. The dancing greens and golds of the Ego Sea were gone. In their place, a warm red bled through the windows, bathing the lab in a quiet, almost threatening glow. The sight that met him next would mark him in ways he could not yet understand.
What the hell?
Outside the lab window, the Ego Sea had given way to another marvel of this world. Gone were the rolling green waves and whirling streams. Instead, hills stretched endlessly, swathed in a sea of vermilion blossoms that seemed to tremble in the light. Flocks of birds drifted across the sky like living clouds, their shadows sliding silently over the glowing landscape. The brilliance of the landscape seared Rhy Shen's vision. Familiar, yet impossible. Beautiful and strange.
Enjoying the view, eh? Don't get too comfortable. Arrival.
Huh?
With his heart hammering, Rhy Shen spun around, shaking the ash free from his eyes. A young man with cloudy, bright hair and thick eyebrows stood in the doorway of the lab, his eyes calculating, his stance taut in a military stiffness. No smile. This guy wasn't here to charm.
You don't belong here. And judging by that look, I suppose you know that too.
Before Rhy Shen could answer, M baffled his big mouth with a sincere warning.
Whatever you do, kid, don't tell him anything you couldn't have found out on your own. This lad may look like a clown, but under that redundantly shapeful hair hides the mind of a sneaky, clever bastard. Don't mess with Immo, idiot or not.
Apparently, this Immo had no time to waste. He closed the distance with the seriousness of an old general and began brushing ash from Rhy Shen's shoulders and hair. Rhy Shen jerked away in disgust.
What the fuck do you think you're doing, man?
Don't test me, Arrival. You're expected in the arena, and I'll not have you show up in a state that might raise questions from Thos or Herma. That's in both of our best interests. So get clean.
Rhy Shen followed the order with dissatisfaction. He would have preferred thinking about this himself. This Immo guy was a pest already.
You're odd to take me to an arena? How big is this building?
Oh, I will lose my last nerve if every future arrival is going to be annoying like you, dirtbag. How do you think this building was made, eh? All these machines won't wheel themselves, plain and simple. Pfft, I don't get it. There is clearly not one drop of vivid atham in your soul. Nevertheless, they want you up there. I'll eat a chair if they can squeeze anything useful out of you. Take the elevator when you're done cleaning yourself.
What elevator? I don't see one.
You're such a turd.
A flat insult was all Immo could manage for Rhy Shen before he turned to the lab door and vanished as explosively as he had appeared. Moments later, a mechanical dragging stirred somewhere nearby.
Huh. Do you know what he was talking about, M?
He could almost hear M grinning behind his Ishi mirror, somewhere at the far end of the world.
Well, well, you know what an elevator is, right? It elevates things upwards. If there only was any way to find out where an elevator goes,
Fine, I understand. I'll take the goddamn elevator. What the?
Easier said than done. Rhy Shen nearly broke himself while trying to force the door open that Immo had slammed shut without a second thought. He pushed until his vision dimmed, too dense to phase through the matter, too weak to apply the pressure it demanded.
Finally. Such a shitty door.
Maybe you're just shitty in handling doors, kid.
It didn't take long for Rhy Shen to find the lift in the maze of stairways and locked doors outside the lab, although M complained about his incompetence without a pause. The elevator shuddered as it began its ascent. A pressured stream indicated the following motion of the cabin that offered only one destination, on floor 6. Beyond the shaft, the cavernous rock groaned with the clatter of construction. Hammers striking stone, drills whining, and chains rattling. Then, with a hiss and a grinding halt, the elevator stopped. A sudden silence pressed against the metal walls, heavy and expectant. Rhy Shen's senses flared. Through the milky glass of the elevator doors, only blurred silhouettes flickered, but the rhythm was alarming. Too fast, too brutal for any ordinary training match. A sharp, nerve-rattling sound cut through the mechanical hum. It was the voice of a woman, struggling and raw. Rhy Shen's pupils widened, and a shiver ran up the nape of his neck, every instinct screaming danger.
Something is going on there. Grah! How do I open these stupid elevator doors, M?
M's mocking laughter vibrated within Rhy Shen's ear.
This is too delightful to watch. I won't guide you this time.
Grr! Okay then!
Like a wasp trapped under glass, Rhy Shen slammed into the doors. The brass-framed glass cracked and wobbled under his pure rage, but the door stayed intact.
What a lucky bugger you are. Seems like no one noticed your little outburst, kid.
Unimpressed by his own performance, Rhy Shen tried to squeeze his entire body through the glass.
Impressive effort for someone who looks like soup steam. I wasn't convinced you'd even handle the elevator button. That's how normal people would try to open those doors, by the way. But sure, me, almost killing yourself works too,
With the absurd stubbornness of someone tackling the impossible, Rhy Shen pressed on. Somehow, despite the pain, he managed to get his face through, but no further. He summoned the last of his strength just to lift his eyes in that surreal posture. Lo and behold, the next marvel of this world reared itself up before him. The shadowy arena ahead was enormous. Its round walls were rising tier upon tier of ornate balconies, each lined with brass rails in symmetrical shapes. It felt more like a temple than a training ground to Rhy Shen. The hall seemed almost empty. Down in the pit, Immo, the bright-haired scholar from earlier, had just taken a brutal hit. A swift, merciless kick landed squarely on Immo's face, sending him staggering backward as the concentrated wind around him dissipated in a sharp gust. Recovering instantly, Immo swung his arm, summoning a powerful blast of wind that almost knocked his opponent off balance. But the girl that beat him up was quick.
Take this!
Twisting with the precision of a predator, the combatant countered with her massive double-headed battle axe, striking him with force enough to split his skull. Rum. Rhy Shen understood at last. This woman wasn't prey in need of saving.
Ouch!
She was the danger. To Rhy Shen's utter surprise, Immo wasn't split in two. He turned just in time, letting the broadsword on his back take the worst of the blow. But the force still slammed him against the ground. When he rose back up, blood spilled from his mouth, yet he still didn't draw the sword.
Was that not enough? Ha! Watch closely, Immo. This is what it costs to underestimate me.
There was no chance of Immo surviving the furious strike. Rhy Shen was sure of that. His chest tightened as he watched the weapon arc toward Immo, and a surge of panic clawed at him.
This lunatic girl is out of control. I've seen enough. That guy Immo introduced himself like an asshole, plain and simple. But I won't let her smash this jerk.
Before Rhy Shen could embarrass himself completely, M tried to rein in his boisterous temper.
Ghost boy, Rhy Shen. Think for one hell-forsaken second in your life. You don't even have a physical body to protect Immo. This isn't just reckless, it's insane.
Rhy Shen did not care. With all the subtlety of a rhinoceros, he finally slammed through the elevator doors and burst into the arena.
Stop! What in the shitholed hell do you think you're...
What?
More than 20 scholars in training suits were lined up on both sides of the arena, something Rhy Shen hadn't glimpsed from the elevator. Every eye burned into him, some cold, some smirking, all judging. Rhy Shen's stomach knotted. The fight froze in mid-chaos. The girl's axe stalled in its swing. The wind from Immo's counterstrike hung in the air as both combatants whirled to face the hulking maniac crashing into the hall. Rhy Shen again.
Oh, kid. So valiant, so committed. Storming doors as if they'd insulted your honor. How did you even pull that off with your mushy face, Imo surely won't appreciate your interpretation of architecture. He's oddly attached to functional entrances.
M nailed it. The scholar named Imo Silvus Keller could hardly process the reckless audacity of this chaotic, door-crashing newcomer Thos had assigned to his supervision. He knew the alchemists had spent ages trying to summon someone from another world through the sphere. And here it was, a door-obsessing, pale-faced, unrestrained chaos bringer.
Bravo.
This is a controlled test, Arrival. You have no right to interrupt a discipline you clearly don't understand.
Confused and embarrassed, Rhy Shen immediately defended his unhinged behavior.
Controlled? You call this embarrassing defeat of yours controlled? This girl was about to smash you. Smash me? Ha! Discipline, Arrival. There is a method here, a procedure. You are ruining everything. You seriously need to get your temper in check, turd.
That was enough. Rhy Shen lunged forward, every ounce of his fury packed into his fists.
Grr. Oh, not again.
The strike passed through Imo's physical form like a punch thrown at smoke.
Ha!
Just like all the following swings. Imo stood still, smirking at him with contempt.
Ha ha, turd.
If I were you, I'd check my chicken-ass hair before I judge about others.
At least this insult wiped the smug grin off Imo's face. His patience evaporated, and he hurled himself at Rhy Shen's hazy outline, as though he were taking on a raging storm.
Feel that. Ah! What?
Imo couldn't land a single hit either. For the first time since his arrival, Rhy Shen felt the cruel limitations of this half-existence. He could see, hear, even think, but he could not do the one thing that truly mattered. Land a few proper smacks on someone when they damn well deserved it.
Enough!
Amidst the flailing limbs and wild wrestling of empty air, the commanding voice of alchemist Thos ripped through the chaos. The scholars froze mid-breath, the wind from Imo's weapon stilled, and even Lumen's glowing axe flickered in hesitation.
Ghostly boy Rhy Shen, stay where you are.
In the blink of an eye, Thos stood before Rhy Shen, his expression cold and unyielding.
This is not a playground for tantrums, nor a duel to be interrupted by whatever you think you are doing. So, I came here because you might be interested in your current condition. Be that as it may, watching you try to fit into the real world is almost laughable.
A hush fell over the arena. Scholars stifled giggles, some of them were biting their lips to keep themselves from laughing outright. Keeping the serious tone unbroken, Thos plunged his hand into the folds of his leather apron and drew out a rough stone, its surface throbbing with an eerie orange light that Rhy Shen recognized at once.
You remember the little thing you brought along from the sphere? Examining it was enlightening.
He jabbed a finger at Rhy Shen's precious little relic from his past life.
This goddamn fossiled orb of yours. This is dung. Petrified, ancient, divine. I can clearly see that once it was brimming with energy. And yet, it's shit, basically. Ha! Where did you even find this? It could predate our sun.
Thos's eyes narrowed as he studied the pale boy, stuttering.
I think it's something from my home, from where I was before I came here.
Ha ha! Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. If the sphere had worked like it was supposed to, we'd have gotten a version of this filthy little thing. And you, bubbling over with Aetham energy for us to harvest. But instead, you and this piece of dung. Bleh. Useless.
Those muttered the words heavy with finality.
I cannot make use of you. You are thoroughly incompatible with the Atham of this world. Pathetic input.
He smashed the glowing orb on the ground, imprinting the round shape into the floor. The ring of scholars recoiled as the orb struck the ground, some from fear of Thos, others from the alien creature the alchemists had dragged into this world. Rhy Shen's shoulders tensed. From the corner of his eye, he saw the girl he had tried to prevent from beating Immo so mercilessly. Unlike the others, there was no scorn or fear in her eyes, only something quieter, something warmer. And then there was the face of arsehole Immo, smirking at the glowing orb, clearly without any clue about the true meaning of this plain object that had brought down an entire world.
Ha ha ha! Told you so, turd.
That was it, the moment Rhy Shen remembered. If this filthy thing was his only link to the world of matter, the only thing that still answered to his touch.
Rah!
Immo, watch out!
What the? Ah!
As Rhy Shen had hoped, the orb turned out to be a perfect fit, driving his clenched fist into Immo's face with a satisfyingly solid impact that made it almost musical. Rhy Shen was unleashed.
Ah! Stop it, Arrival!
Desperately, Immo tried to defend himself against the heavy blows from the orb, but he couldn't land a single hit on Rhy Shen in return.
Ah! This is ridiculous. Damn! Ah! I'll lose my last fucking nerve.
At last, Immo got hold of the orb. With a furious roar, he slammed it into the ground. The impact broke the massive stone into pieces. When the dust settled, all eyes turned to Rhy Shen in sheer disgust. He heard M's voice echoing through the manipulated speech bug in his ear.
Oh, Rhy Shen. I wouldn't have done that if I were in your position.
Obviously, everyone in the room thought the same. Thos's brows cast a shadow over his eyes as he spoke.
Well, what an impressive display of your qualities, ghostly boy. No scholar below the rank of master could land a strike against protégés like Immo Silvas. Yet you defy the laws of physics in a way I've never seen. Very effective, very underhanded. But your recklessness ends here. Step aside, ghostly boy. You are dismissed.
The scholars exchanged amused whispers, watching the ghost boy and Immo sprawled on the floor like turtles on their backs, both gasping for air. Only Lumen, the girl who had dealt Immo an even harsher beating than Rhy Shen, didn't just stare. She began gathering the broken shards of the orb. Rhy Shen finally forced himself to his feet, ignoring the scornful gazes forming a cruel gauntlet around him, and strode toward the broken elevator, each step a silent defiance against their judgment.
See you tomorrow, Rhy Shen. Training begins at dawn.
Despite the stern gazes of the others, Scholar Lumen remained steady. She sensed that anyone who trained under Teel's two-faced son belonged, no matter what darkness had shaped them. Yet she couldn't help but wonder why connecting with this furious ghost was proving so difficult. The next day brimmed with wonders once again. Rhy Shen awoke from a hazy, restless slumber in his chamber, still buzzing with the sharp thrill of being misunderstood.
I only defended myself.
Kid. Your way of defending looks a lot like war, you see?
As he blinked the last remnants of sleep from his eyes, he could hardly trust what he saw. The world outside was unrecognizable once again. A dry, white desert stretched endlessly, littered only with bones.
Never seen the infinite sands, have you?
M asked with curiosity from his ear.
No rush. The desert will be here for 6 days before the next wave swallows everything. But time sure does fly, doesn't it? You'd better get ready. The alchemists will open the sphere again soon, and when they do, the next scholar they pull out will be far stronger than you.
Rhy Shen stared out over the endless white expanse, squinting against the harsh glare.
How big is it?
He murmured, his voice tinged with awe.
I mean, how big is this world, really?
M chuckled through the speech bug.
One of the riddles the alchemists are desperate to solve. The infinite sands. Too deadly to cross with any known power or vehicle in Teel. That's the dilemma of the people who live at its edges. Fascinating, isn't it?
Rhy Shen gave little more than a nod, his mind already shifting to the next challenge. The elevator hummed beneath him as he ascended toward the arena, the anticipation coiling like fire in his chest. At the arena doors, Lumen waited, Immo by her side. Her bright eyes lit up as she spotted him.
Good morning, Rhy Shen? Is that how your name is said? We're happy you came back today.
She nudged Immo, who muttered a grumpy nod in greeting.
My name is Lumen, and this is Immo Silvas Keller. We have something for you. Right, Immo?
Another nudge for Immo Silvas followed.
Yes, we do.
I forged it myself. From the shards you lost yesterday. And Immo here helped me attach a handle using an energy-absorbing spin plant. We're interested in what you can offer the group, and you're welcome. Right, Immo?
Yes, we are.
Immo confirmed, still a little reluctant, but attentive.
Brace yourself, for what you're about to witness is Juru craft at its finest.
Lumen announced with a flourish, spinning on her heel. From her back, she drew a weapon that glowed softly in the arena light.
Ta-da!
A long sledgehammer, delicate and deceptively fragile, as if it wouldn't even crack an egg if wielded properly. Rhy Shen tilted his head, studying it.
It doesn't look very strong,
He admitted, brow furrowed in curiosity.
Well,
Lumen replied with a mischievous grin.
you can't know until you try, my friend.
Immo stepped forward, holding out the weapon. As Rhy Shen reached for it, he pulled it back teasingly.
Careful!
And once more, that was mockery, not company. With a final flick of his wrist, he let Rhy Shen grasp the handle. The instant Rhy Shen's fingers closed around the hammer, a storm ignited behind his eyes. Dark, unyielding, utterly unstoppable. With a single fluid motion, he swung the hammer straight into Immo's smirking face. The impact rattled through the hall, sending Immo flying several body lengths across the floor. Rhy Shen stood over the aftermath, unshaken, every inch the embodiment of raw, commanding power. M couldn't help it. A small, mischievous laughter echoed through Rhy Shen's ear.
Well, that's one way to stand your ground, kid.
Whoever thought being a ghost meant being humble clearly hadn't met Rhy Shen.
Impressive. How much physical force you can funnel into that tiny little hammerhead of yours. I suppose the long handle gave you a bit of extra punch. But there's one thing you didn't consider, you toothpick-swinging fool.
At the far end of the arena, Immo didn't simply rise. He unfolded from the floor with shadowy eyes, surrounded by a halo of dust from his fall. With a precise motion, he wiped the thin stream of blood from his mouth.
I told you so. Don't mess with Immo.
The Tale of Rhy Shen, Chapter 4. 2 Birds and a Stone. A sharp inhale cut the air in the arena as Immo's boots dug into the stone. Tension coiled in his shoulders.
Time to put things back in order, starting with you, Arrival. You are so crooked in all the wrong ways, you turd.
He never finished the insult. Rhy Shen's hammerhead materialized in a flicker of ghost light and hit him right in the face, once again.
Ugh.
From the crowd, Lumen's panicked voice rang out.
Stop it, Rhy Shen! He's an Aetham soldier rank 4! Rank 4! Don't provoke him!
Rhy Shen tilted his head slightly, as though hearing an odd rumor.
Ranked? In what?
Then Immo moved. His palms and shoulders slammed forward and... boom! A shockwave detonated outward from his core, bending air and cracking ground. Rhy Shen burst apart into drifting ghost shreds. For a heartbeat, there was nothing of him left. Immo's eyes widened as he stared at the void he had brought into being.
Holy, that's not what I intended to do.
All the scholars and even Thos were stunned. Particles that had once united into the entity Rhy Shen now swirled through the air like motes of dust. The small speech bug Rhy Shen had worn clattered to the ground. Thus, after a while, the fragments began to decelerate, suspended, weightless, glowing faintly in the dim light. Then, with a cascade of delicate chimes, they folded back inward. Rhy Shen reformed in one fluid motion, with a faint smirk on his face, his lower body nothing more than a swirling black cloud. He picked up the speech bug and murmured, calm and even.
Is that all, Immo?
Rhy Shen's calm, collected posture carried an unexpected weight, enough to make Immo grit his teeth in frustration. He rolled his shoulders, as though warming up rather than fighting.
See this? Every time I hit you, I spill Atham from my core.
A spark of orange light leaked from his chest and floated upward like a single ember.
It should be the other way around when you get hit. Ah ha ha! That's how big the gap is between us. You not only have no Atham to spill. It's even worse. You're sucking it.
The light wavered in the air, like a firefly in a hot summer night. Rhy Shen recognized the aura at once. It was the same energy that had once brought down his entire world, the same chi his people had failed to restore. Other glowing particles from the earlier clash with Immo still drifted through the room, drawn magnetically toward the slender head of Rhy Shen's sledgehammer as it passed.
You've got some nerve, Arrival. Stop siphoning my core Atham and start concentrating. There's a scientific reason I'm not blasting you to pieces with a single strike of my sword. So don't make me regret it.
Oh, kid. Oh, Rhy Shen.
M spoke up in Rhy Shen's ear.
Immo's right, and you're pathetic. Again. If you keep fiddling with that pinprick of a weapon, this conflict will only escalate. Believe me. It's obvious that your weapon is drawing Atham from Immo's core, while he doesn't get a single spark from you. Keep defying the rules and logic he relies on, and he will become very, very angry.
Rhy Shen gripped the mysterious hammer and brought it to his shoulder, holding it like a scythe.
Haha, let's try that again, asshole.
The hammer slammed into the ground, and the sweeping strike forced Immo back.
Wham!
Both of you, stop! I can't fix you if you break each other apart.
Lumen darted between them and reached for Rhy Shen's hand wrist. He flickered. This time, intentionally. Her hand passed through empty air. Rhy Shen re-solidified his arm behind her with a faint, satisfied smile on his lips. M was impressed.
Clever trick for a dumb fish like you. Even a broken clock is right twice a day,
Immo exhaled, slowly. His voice lowered into a dangerous growl.
All right, enough games.
His core ignited, and his eyes lit up in amber and orange. M shouted something through the speech bug, but the roar drowned him out.
Let's see you walk through this, Arrival.
Immo hurled a giant fireburst, inflicting the whole arena. A column of fire and pressure crashed into Rhy Shen like descending judgment. The arena went white. Lumen shielded her face from the heat, just like the other scholars. When she pulled back her hands, the hall was filled with the hiss of cooling stone. Rhy Shen stood in the center of scorched earth. Smoke drifted from his shoulders. He coughed once. His hair was somewhat disheveled but intact. His eyes were sharper than before. Without saying a word, he stooped and picked up his speech bug again.
Wow, really? Wow.
Alchemist Thos stepped down the stairs from the main elevator that had just stopped in the arena. He clapped his hands in unironic awe and stared at Rhy Shen in disbelief, while his scholars quickly cleared a path in 2 neat rows and lowered their heads respectfully.
Immo Silvers, would you mind doing that again? Don't hesitate. Give him all you got.
Immo flickered with mistrust for a second, but he quickly recovered. With a furrowed brow, he unleashed another burst of fire at the new arrival. Rhy Shen found the blaze more annoying than threatening, and raised his eyes, shielding them as though the low sun burned in his vision. Thos took out pen and paper and wrote something down with shaking fingers.
Fascinating. Apparently, this arrival is untouched by fire. My dear ghost boy Rhy Shen, that is something very rare in the universe. Did you know that?
Rhy Shen shifted his stance, calm and centered.
I had my suspicions about that.
In Rhy Shen's ear, the voice of M groaned dramatically.
There goes our advantage. He's going to use this information, kid. He's absolutely going to use this.
M said it with the sort of innocence that ignored his own exploitation of it the night before.
Oh, as fate would have it, we have some use for someone with this ability here in the Alchemist Guild. We'll come back to that later.
I knew it.
Immo stepped forward with a puffed chest. His eyes were blazing with outrage, and he pointed a judging finger at Rhy Shen.
Oh, the nerve. The absolute nerve! You owe me, Arrival. You cannot possibly be normal. To absorb Atham without losing a single spark, even while under attack? What in the name of the guild are you?
He threw his hands dramatically toward the ceiling, as if appealing to some higher law.
Do you even have an inner core to bind Atham, or are you really a dead man? I should never have assisted Lumen with this abomination of a weapon. This is how you react to a gift? You're a scammer, a fraud,
His indulgence cut his voice off. Instead of finishing the sentence, he turned an imperious glare toward Rhy Shen.
And it's beyond unfair. Beyond! To pilfer Atham in a mere training bout without even offering a single charm stone in return. Let me guess. You don't have one? Of course not. I have no words for this audacity.
From the crowd, a young scholar darted forward, hurling a polished gem straight at Immo's forehead.
Immo, stop acting like a melodramatic child and let him be. Take one of my charm stones if your dignity demands it.
Other scholars joined and started tossing small charm stones through the air with exaggerated enthusiasm.
Fethel's right. Here, Immo, catch it if your righteousness allows it.
Rhy Shen watched the scene with detached wonderment. These scholars, who didn't even know him, stood up for him like friends, mocking Immo in a way that made even Thos smirk off the record. Immo's veins bulged, hot steam almost rising from his ears. His frown looked sharp enough to split rock, while more and more charmstones piled up at his feet. With a tiger-like snap of her hands, Lumen caught one of the stones mid-air.
My friends, Immo may be righteous, but that doesn't mean he isn't right.
She stepped in front of Immo and turned to Thos.
Tell me, Master Thos, wouldn't it be a good idea to use Rhy Shen's abilities out there? To take care of our little problem?
The scholars gasped, while Thos's eyes widened.
Oh, you mean that problem?
He waved his fingers through the air with a knowing expression, and Lumen nodded. Another gasp rolled through the circle of scholars.
That is a marvelous idea, my dear scholar. We could quite literally kill two birds with one stone. Ha ha ha.
Lumen faltered for a moment and pressed her fingertips to her temples as if she had to keep something from spilling out. Then her eyes snapped open, filled with resolve.
I'll go with him. He needs supervision at all times, right?
At that, Immo raised his head, concern in his eyes, and drew the sickle from his belt.
Are you sure about that, Lumen?
I think so. He doesn't know how to handle the Juru people if he stumbles into them. But I do. So, I'll accompany him. If you allow it, Master Thos.
The declarative certainty in her voice bothered Thos more than he cared to admit.
Obviously you have already made your decision, Lumen. So, take what you need from the raid equipment and move out.
That was exactly what Lumen wanted to hear. She looked at Rhy Shen with pleasant anticipation.
Oh, Rhy Shen, my friend, you will love it out there. I think you are just the right one for this important assignment.
Deep in the back of Rhy Shen's mind, a bell rang, and something coiled in his stomach like a wrench. He had heard this before, and it had ended in carnage.
Oh, and Lumen, don't forget to wait until night before going up there. We don't know what the savages have in store for us today.
Lumen's eyelid flinched at the word savages, but she nodded. Then she took Rhy Shen's hand with a softness he could almost feel and dragged him out with her. As the doors closed behind them, Thos' eyebrows sank like curtains, shading his eyes with a dog-like expression. He pulled Immo to the side, murmuring as quiet as he could.
I want you to follow them, Immo Silvas. Take a few other scholars with you if you must. Keep your eyes on our arrival. And on Lumen, too.
Rhy Shen followed Lumen down the corridors toward the equipment chamber. On the way, she didn't waste a second on small talk.
So, Rhy Shen, I have never seen someone like you before. Do you remember anything from before the alchemists pulled you out of the sphere? Or has your whole existence so far been nothing more than a single day?
He didn't know what to think or answer.
The birds sing the rumors from the trees, my friend. They didn't just teleport you here. They pulled you from death, nirvana, the nimbus. Whatever you may call it, right?
I suppose so.
Honestly, I'd like to know more about that. You are very interesting, Rhy Shen.
They stepped into a room overflowing with gear, ropes, and weapons. With precise, fluid movements, Lumen swept a few items from the shelves and slipped them into a haversack for light travel. Her shoulders shifted under her thick fur collar with controlled strength, silent proof of how well-trained and capable she truly was. And then she rose onto her toes and leaned over him to reach a strap above his head, fully aware of his eyes on her.
So, what do we do now?
Rhy Shen could only stammer the words.
What we do?
She dropped back onto her heels, her face so close he could feel her breath brush across his cheek.
We wait, and we slumber. Our best chance to handle the little problem outside is to take the advantage of surprise by night.
Her amber eyes flickered to him.
Where is your chamber, Rhy Shen?
He hesitated.
I don't know the way from here. It's in Thas's lab.
Then we go.
Oh, this soft touch of hers. She grabbed his wrist as if it could melt away under pressure, and not being blurred or brushed aside by someone else felt, ooh, so good. Lumen led Rhy Shen into his chamber and set down her pack. The animal fur collar around her neck rested loosely over a striped halter top. Her dry, well-defined muscles looked as if they had been sculpted by cord and sunlight alone. She caught his gaze without hesitation and let her hands fall on his shoulders, guiding him to sit on the table.
Do Juru women look strange to you?
The teasing tone in her voice was undeniable.
Are you one of those Jurus?
Rhy Shen didn't know where to place his eyes, so he just closed them for a moment.
I am. Do you know what makes us so extraordinary?
Oh, Rhy Shen had 1,000 guesses why this woman was extraordinary. Her amber eyes, the hint of naive friendliness, and that feral aura beneath it. Lumen felt like one of those rare, untamed marvels Thos had told him existed in the world. For a fleeting moment, a deep, ancient weariness passed over Lumen's features, as if a shadow of centuries rested on a single breath.
Juru do not die. Not from time, or sickness, or injury.
M rustled in Rhy Shen's cloak.
Ask her about her age, kid.
He could barely contain a chuckle. Rhy Shen questioned what he saw for a moment. Lumen appeared younger than himself. He wouldn't have guessed that there was a wise, old mind behind her youthful smile.
So, how old are you then?
She twirled a long braid around her finger with the ease of a cat troubling a mouse.
I am old enough to remember Teel before the cities rose from stone, before machines breathed life into their streets. Old enough to stop caring about time. You wouldn't understand.
Meh, that's what they always say. It was worth a try.
The people here, they don't seem to like Juru very much.
That comment caused the warm expression from Lumen's face to fade within a second.
People rarely like other people, Rhy Shen. But time reshapes everything. Enemies and friends both fade and return like seasons. Sometimes in new forms. In the end, we always find a way to smooth things over.
M cleared his throat dryly.
Oh, Rhy Shen. Oh, Rhy Shen. Careful. That's an outcast talking. This woman was expelled from her clan. She doesn't seem in the mood to talk about politics, so leave it be.
Lumen uttered a long and tired sigh, heavy with unspoken history. She said nothing further. Instead, her hands glided into the haversack she had packed before to take out some black cloth.
What do you call home, now that you are here, Rhy Shen? My home isn't far from the guild. It is the melting village. Too hot to be crossed by mortals.
She bent to remove her boots, never breaking eye contact as she straightened her back and neck.
The fortress of the Alchemists Guild was built in a very hot environment, geographically and politically. In fact, my people are the little problem we have outside, you know. They forged a siege wall to block the Charmstone deliveries from the free city of Teel. That is their idea of peaceful protest against the alchemists. Their perseverance is as honorable as it is exhausting. They just won't give up.
Her amber eyes fixed on him from the dark.
We'll tear their little protest wall down tonight.
The friendly Lumen of the morning gradually turned into a fierce black cat, and Rhy Shen liked it. She smoothed her suit with her hands before she moved to a small table where an untouched plate of dough balls awaited.
What an indulgence. How kind of those to offer such a treat as your first meal.
She picked one dough nugget up with both hands and bit into it with a fierce, almost predatory intensity.
Haven't you tried them yet?
She asked, chewing already.
I don't eat.
You don't what?
I don't feel hunger.
She studied him with glinting eyes, tilting her head like a creature inspecting a rare insect.
Hunger is not the only reason to eat, my friend.
She split the dough ball in half and placed the other portion before him.
Sit down and enjoy a moment of peace and warmth. That's the point of all this.
He obeyed. Awkward and fumbling, he held the dough, his movements clumsy and frantic. At last, he forced the warm bite in his mouth. Lumen watched him, first sternly, then laughing so hard tears slid down her cheeks.
You look like you're fighting a demon.
Shut up.
For a fleeting, perfect moment, her laughter made his heart thrum in his veins. They shared the meal like friends who didn't have to prove anything to each other. Lumen was right. Nothing could have given them more energy to face a foreign danger in the dark. The sky beyond the window darkened to a deep red over the infinite sands. Lumen wiped her eyes.
Time to go. Are you ready? It will be easy. We'll break down the siege wall in no time. You'll understand once we reach the roof.
Rhy Shen felt a shiver along his spine.
Whenever someone says, "This will be easy," it never is.
Lumen grinned.
Wise boy.
He stood, hesitating.
But are you ready? You said these are your people out there. Doesn't it bother you to strike against...
My own?
She waved it off.
Teel is changing. Strange creatures appeared in the woods. Broken things. Unnatural. Glitching like cracks in glass. They don't belong here. The Juru outside. They are not wrong. They seek to cut the problem at its root, while I decided to support a more practical path. We simply walk different roads now.
She fixed Rhy Shen with a sharp gaze.
Unlike them, I prefer to kill harmful intruders. All of them. That is my way of helping the guild and my people. Even if they don't understand that.
Her next words came playfully, almost gently.
Technically, you're one of those creatures too, Rhy Shen. You also appeared out of nowhere.
Rhy Shen swallowed hard, and this time it wasn't the dough ball.
Don't forget to take your hammer. Let's go!
They rode the elevator Rhy Shen had taken earlier to reach the arena. Then a second cabin that rattled like an old furnace, and finally a narrow third lift on floor 18 that groaned under their weight. Each ascent felt like a step deeper into the unknown for Rhy Shen. When the doors opened, warm air breathed over them, tinged with the scent of long-burned minerals. Lumen stepped out first, her silhouette a sleek shadow in the dim industrial light.
Just a few more steps,
she said, glancing back at him.
Be prepared when we get to the roof. My people might have adapted their tactics after the last breakthrough.
Rhy Shen followed, the floor vibrating faintly under his boots.
So, how are we going to destroy the siege wall outside?
It will explode,
she answered, almost too casually.
What? Explode how?
Lumen stopped. Slowly, deliberately, she reached behind her shoulder and tugged open the flap of her haversack. Her grin was sharp and feral. Apparently, she enjoyed this part of their adventure. With both hands, she pulled out a round, heavy object wrapped in layers of dark cloth and knotted it to Rhy Shen's hammer. Rhy Shen staggered, but Lumen's feral combativeness was too thrilling as she looked him fiercely in the eyes.
We'll bomb them.
Lumen approached a massive, circular lid embedded in the ceiling. With a grunt, she lifted it. The metal screeched in protest, but eventually gave way to reveal the world beyond. Rhy Shen held his breath. The night stretched out in breathtaking scope, and the air trembled with a suffocating weight. To the east, the infinite sands spread endlessly under the moonlight, like a dark sea. To the south, a volcano's molten peak glowed like a fiery sentinel, casting orange flickers across the clouds. In the northwest, the skyline of the free city glittered with high towers and scattered lights, a maze of stone and steel that seemed impossibly far. The transition of the sky was mesmerizing. A moon hung over the land, but it was not the same moon Rhy Shen had seen on his first night in this strange new world. This one was larger, with a soft pink hue, and no atmosphere like the other. Its magical light tinted the world in a faint purple glow. Rhy Shen felt a tingle of awe crawl up his spine while he imagined all the opportunities awaiting him beneath that sky. Every nerve in his body stirred. Lumen caught his reaction, sharp and knowing. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod.
You like your new home?
He could only nod. Curiosity awakened inside him like a dormant flame. This was nothing like the scorched earth of his old life. It was an entirely untouched reality for him to shape. He wanted to trace every glimmer of light he saw in the distance and explore every shadow he saw. The building loomed far taller than he had anticipated. Its silhouette curled into the sky like wrought iron filigree. Around the Alchemist Guild, a broad water ditch shimmered in the purple moonlight. Two slim bridges twisted over the water in delicate arcs, almost organic in their design. Rhy Shen felt a strange shiver as he scanned the rock, as if 1,000 eyes were staring back, offering no chance for him to recognize. Every inch of the surrounding environment was stacked with a burning siege line formed of staggered volcanic stones forming black towers. Their surfaces glowed faintly from the heat within.
Attention, my friend. The silence means that they know we're here. Do you see where the western bridge ends? That's where you'll place the bomb. Listen, this is very important. Make sure the bomb doesn't catch any.
Before Lumen could end the sentence, hell broke loose. Thousands of burning Juru arrows exploded from behind the vamped siege and filled the sky, all pointing at the rooftop of the guild. They molted into a smoking cloud of fire that was meant to stop the attackers.
What the? Is this your peaceful protest?
Obviously, the Juru had changed their tactics according to the guild's increasing aggressiveness. For the first time in Rhy Shen's experience, Lumen looked truly frightened.
Rhy Shen, you have to jump!
He froze in shock. Jump where? The wind whipped at his shape, fireballs exploded to the left and right, throwing sparks and heat into his face. Lumen tore the cape from her suit and flung out her arms, unfolding sharp, triangular wings. Then she ran.
Please don't die! Hurrah!
As she shot past him, she shoved him off the guild's wall, counting on the idea that he might need no wings or anything to break the fall. Arrows streaked past like deadly silver threads. Every shot could ignite the explosives on Rhy Shen's back and end the mission. But he stayed resolute, Lumen right beside him. Rhy Shen slammed onto the bridge, but his shadowy body remained in one piece. Instinct took over. He focused, eyes locked on the siege at the far end of the bridge.
Go, Rhy Shen! You can do it!
Lumen yelled as she glided over his head. She twisted in midair, landed gracefully ahead of him, and swung her axe, striking one of the shooters with a thunderous BAM! Rhy Shen ran toward the barricade with surging adrenaline in his veins. Before him, Lumen fought with violent precision, cutting down her own people to clear the way. Steel clanged, shouts rang, and chaos consumed the scene. Then a voice from the black siege towers shouted, deep and commanding.
Strike with Scatha!
Hearing this, Lumen stopped mid-motion in disbelief, and even M's voice in Rhy Shen's ear shrieked.
Scathar. They're actually putting it on the field. Damn! That means this is serious!
The rain of burned arrows stopped, and instead, something darker rose from the siege walls. A single Juru man positioned himself on the top, holding a small torch, the Scathar. Within a blink of an eye, he ignited himself in flames and launched his body from the tower, becoming a living spear of heat. Lumen had no chance to react. The Scathar targeted directly at her and crashed into her with full speed.
No! Lumen!
A tremendous explosion erupted, fire tore through the air, and the world seemed to shatter around them. The smoke at the end of the bridge hadn't even lifted when another flame ignited on the siege walls. Another Scathar, and this one targeted directly at Rhy Shen. M's voice rattled in panic.
The only way out is forward! Run, Rhy Shen! Run!
Rhy Shen flung himself sideways and sprinted toward the siege wall, hammer raised. The air sizzled around him, ash fell like deadly rain.
To hell with it. Even if this is the last thing I'll ever do, I'll do it fucking right.
He swung the hammer and slammed towards the wall with all his strength, but the Scathar was faster. The burning man crashed down from above like a falling god. In a desperate attempt to hold the barricade behind them, the Juru Skathar crashed himself right into Rhy Shen. A massive explosion erupted. Ash clouds swallowed the battlefield in an instant, like the closing jaws of a giant beast. Then, silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Smoke and embers swirled, and the scorched wind carried only the echoes of what had just happened. The Juru protesters had already vanished into the forest before the smoke settled and the moonlight touched the bridge again. Seconds later, the western doors of the guild burst open, and a troop of Atham scholars led by Immo hurried onto the bridge.
Lumen, Rhy Shen, are you okay?
A notably large section of the siege wall was simply gone. Only scorched dust and cracked stone remained on the ground. Rhy Shen had made it. He had torn it down.
Get off me, you fat ass!
Still coughing and swearing, Lumen pushed herself free from the heavy body that had crashed down on top of her. The Skathar's skin was charred and brittle, his hair and clothes burned away, but he too was alive. He rolled over to check on the second Juru assassin, shook him awake, and together they fled the scene into the night.
Oh, thank the stars. I'm so glad you're okay, Lumen. But where is the arrival? Where is Rhy Shen?
Their eyes drifted to the massive breach in the siege wall. Rhy Shen was nowhere in sight. Only his weapon and speech bug remained cold and lifeless in the dust.
Rhy Shen? Rhy Shen!
Once more, he was gone. Immo blinked into the darkness.
That's impossible. What happened? He must have teleported himself or something. Maybe he's gone where he came from.
In the instant his friends stopped looking for him, a faint shadow stretched across the rubble. A movement too deliberate to be random. Silence fell once again. Then a voice, calm, low, and perfectly timed.
Looking for me?
Rhy Shen stepped into view from the dust. Sparks danced around him and ash clung to his cloak. His weapon rested casually across his shoulders, heavy and inevitable, as if it had been there all along. His gaze swept over the shattered wall with cold amusement.
Seems like the way is free.
In that instant, the ghostly boy Rhy Shen was truly untouchable. Unfucking touchable. The Tale of Rhy Shen, Chapter 5. Visions. Rhy Shen stood in the new opening of the siege with his arms crossed, calmer than ever. The inferno had burned his doubts away and left behind a comforting clarity. Behind him, Lumen pulled herself together, quite literally. The Skathar assault had left her with burns along her arms, several cracked ribs, and a dark bruise blooming beneath one eye. She gritted her teeth as blood, bones, and singed skin knit themselves back together, fused with a faint shimmer of Atham. No one around them paid much attention. Footsteps rolled in a steady, almost military rhythm. Chains jingled as charm stones swung from belts and bags. Merchants and mercenaries crossed the shattered bridge with practiced indifference, having waited patiently for the siege wall to be destroyed. Again. The raspy voice of a traveler rang in Rhy Shen's ear as he passed. He gave his companion a sharp elbow nudge.
I told you! The siege would be down by noon!
Trade had resumed the moment passage was possible. These people were clearly used to catastrophe. Some travelers were barely humanoid. It was as though reality had attempted their creation a few times before finally giving up. Rhy Shen could have sworn he saw the same sorcerer woman pass by 3 times. Each iteration slightly different in hair or clothing. Yet all of them shared the same sharp intelligence in their eyes. From the speech bug, M offered some explanatory words.
Greedy creatures. With each wave, more mercenaries crowd in, all peddling their charm stones to the alchemists. Take this as a lesson, Greenhorn. The tiniest promise of reward makes even chaos bow to hierarchy.
M had a point. Each of those cultivators looked capable of taking down all 4 alchemists with a single strike. Nevertheless, they aligned with friendly faces in front of the main doors to offer the charm stones they carried on chains or in bags. Some of them pushed small carriages stacked with metal parts and tools. A few mages relied on their fearsome, uncanny pets to carry their master's cargo. Immo wiped sweat from his brow, clipboard in hand. He desperately tried to sound official, which made ridicule inevitable.
Damage report for the alchemists. The siege wall is mostly destroyed on the northwestern end. Bridge damaged, but intact. Casualties, moderate. And, morale seems okay, if you consider sheer chaos morale.
He looked left and right, one eyebrow raised in disapproval. Eventually, a heroic and spectacularly self-overestimating idea occurred to him, and it showed plainly in his eyes.
The Juru keep bringing up the siege wall after every wave, and this stops now. I need to go to the melting village to negotiate.
Rhy Shen's cocky smirk spoke volumes.
You want to appease them after bombing their siege walls? Good luck with that.
Not that he'd know anything about keeping calm before making a scene. Neither Immo nor Rhy Shen had ever quite mastered the art of speaking before acting. Lumen calmly shook her head, quietly entertained by the situation.
Ugh, my people don't mind a rough discussion. I just doubt that Immo could handle it with enough sovereignty.
She held the pause just long enough to draw a reaction from Immo.
Immo, my friend. What makes you think that the alchemists will let you handle this?
Then she laid her hand around his shoulders to draw him closer.
I heard that Bo Yang has a secret scholar. Someone with an elite soldier rank. Plus, you don't handle stress situations very well. You have demonstrated that a lot. Basically, everyone in the guild would be better for this mission than you.
Except you, And we all know why. At least they didn't expel me from their community, you big mouth.
You're in my heart, Immo, but you're also an idiot. You won't even reach the village as an ordinary mortal.
Immo kept his face straight.
I'll take my chances.
Then I'll come with you.
For a moment, Lumen wondered if she'd ever do anything in her eternal life besides guiding fools through disasters. She rested her gaze on Rhy Shen for a moment and gave a long, irritated, possibly angry sigh. Then M's voice pierced the silence, speaking straight into Rhy Shen's mind.
Say that you'll join them, you dumb fish. This is your chance to leave the building and see the world outside. Isn't that what you dreamed of?
Rhy Shen felt a wave of disgust roll up his spine.
I can't stand Immo's face, and I'm not going to say sorry to those people who shot burning arrows at me 5 fucking minutes ago. Why should I tag along with this bonehead to visit a bunch of dolts I couldn't care less about?
Because misery loves company. The world is bigger than your petty grievances. And this bonehead right next to you, he is your only ticket to seeing it right now. So don't be such a chicken and go.
Out of words, Rhy Shen clenched his fists. M was right. He could almost feel it. Greatness, or perhaps sheer madness, was calling to him. Something monumental, something that demanded he leave this wretched guild tower behind and learn what was out there for him. So, he hurried to catch up to Immo. He didn't even have to say a thing.
We start at dawn.
Lumen shook her head and muttered something about apocalypse-level morons as she turned around to help cleaning up the ruins from the siege. Immo, entirely unconcerned, adjusted his clipboard and marched toward the guild's main entry. Rhy Shen retreated to his chamber to find a moment of peace. The echo of the chaos he caused outside was still ringing in his mind.
So this conflict has been going on for a while, eh?
Stubborn Juru people. They will never give up. It lies in their nature. They cannot see the bigger picture.
Rhy Shen walked down a corridor he could have sworn he had just left. Finding the stairway to the alchemist labs took longer than he expected. The tower's twisting passages seemed determined to confuse him at every turn. It was then that Rhy Shen noticed the strange mechanical noise humming from the walls. Nothing about the sound anchored in anything familiar, despite the permanent squeaks and hums from metal and glass. It sounded as if they were building something as big as the Qilin within this tiny fortress of theirs, like a metallic whale being swaged into a fishbowl.
Stop the suggestive bullshit, old man. I can smell your hypocrisy from here. What are they really building in the guild tower, What do they need all the charm stones and the energy for?
I doubt the true scale of this project can even fit in your imagination, dimwat. It's bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than any of us. And the construction lies in the hands of a handful of brain-dead alchemists with ego issues. Nice, Stop the next elevator at floor 14, and I'll let you peek.
He braced as the elevator shuddered downward toward floor 14. This time, Rhy Shen used a golden handle to unlock the elevator doors and open them smoothly. Another long and curved corridor with 2 rows of doors stretched into the darkness. Only dim light flickered from unsteady wall lamps.
Quick, through the 3rd door on the left, before someone sees you.
Rhy Shen spared no time and slipped inside. The air shifted instantly, heavy with heat and steam. Above him, a shallow water trench ran across a glass floor. The sunlight from above the ground fell through on the glass surface. Freckles of light fractured and danced through the dripping water, spilling a shimmering glow across the cavern like a reflection from the heavens.
Psst! Stay hidden on the gallery. Do not move.
Rhy Shen pressed himself against a steel beam. He tried to blend in and grabbed a construction worker's cap from the walls, but the cap wobbled and slipped through his head to the floor.
Never mind, dumb fish. Look down.
Through the metal grid of the gallery, Rhy Shen's gaze fell on something remarkable.
What the hell is this?
Below, a triangle-shaped construction site sprawled endlessly, impossibly vast.
Quite the trick, eh?
Hundreds of machines moved with vivid precision, dwarfed by shards of metal taller than towers. The polished metal glowed faintly with internal energy, while the ambient clatter of machinery echoed like distant thunder. Rhy Shen's jaw tightened. This monstrosity made of steel and atham reminded him of the Qilin. In its full glory, it would become an unstoppable force.
This is Sun 2, kid. The city upon the clouds.
Wow, It is overwhelming.
M chuckled through the speech bug and took another audible sip from a cup, quietly reveling in Rhy Shen's overwhelm.
You think so? Wait until you see the other arms of the configuration.
Rhy Shen wondered aloud with awe in his voice.
Why do they call it the city upon the clouds when it's buried underground?
That question is really beneath me. Think about it long enough, and you might arrive at the answer yourself, Ghost Boy. For now, retreat and rest. You've seen enough for today.
Unseen by the workers piloting the machines below, Rhy Shen slipped away. When Rhy Shen reached his chamber, his thoughts still orbited the impossible shape below. Sun too lingered behind his eyes like an after-image burned into the soul. He reached for another dough ball from the table, just as Lumen had taught him, less out of hunger, more for the warmth of the sensation. It helped. Rhy Shen's body required neither food, nor sleep, nor breath. Nevertheless, he savored the illusion of peace. Much like that, he lay down on his bed not because he needed rest, but because he enjoyed the simple act of resting. Just for one moment.
Rhy Shen, are you awake?
Oh, what in the world?
Rhy Shen?
Grrr. What do you want, Lumen?
She came closer than expected, and surprisingly took his face in both hands. Before she said something strange.
I can see your core.
The words were spoken lightly, almost playfully, yet they pulled something tight inside him. She smiled, the kind of smile that suggested she already knew what would happen next.
Do you want to know what's wrong with you?
Rhy Shen did not mention that he had just wondered the same about her. Lumen touched his face, softly.
Breathe. And let your consciousness wave. Wave.
Her fingers wandered over his neck in a touch of purified presence. He felt it somewhere outside his body, more like a peaceful memory than a physical act. Oh, what a touch. Suddenly, Rhy Shen's vision blurred. The cadence of Lumen's breath thinned and faded, dissolving along with the ambient hum of the guild. Sound collapsed, and distance followed. He fell inward into pure silence, into a place within himself where energy and consciousness were no longer separate concepts, but the same substance seen from different angles. Then, uninvited and unashamed, M disturbed the intimate moment from within.
Have you ever observed your inner core before, dumbfish? Or did they simply skip that technique in your home world?
Rhy Shen had read about the inner core in ancient books, but they'd named it soul. It was the golden center of every living being described in ancient texts, the nucleus of any sapient existence.
I didn't know the inner core could be seen. Not like this.
He leaned into the perception, eager now. Curiosity and impatience drove him forward. He expected a radiant core, golden and steady, forged by years of disciplined training, exactly as the books promised every living being should have. He found nothing of the sort. Instead, there was an inner grave, a silent gravity well where energy bent inward and never returned. Only absolute, calm darkness, a black hole at the heart of himself.
This is what I saw through the Ishi mirror.
Evidently, Rhy Shen was nothing more than that. A spark of black dust absorbing life.
Now you see it for yourself. We could pour all the atom in the world into this pit, and it would vanish as if it never existed. That's why regular cultivation will never work for you.
You mean I could never learn techniques like Emo, Lumen, and the scholars? Never farm Atham like the other travelers?
A tide of disappointment rose with the weight of realization.
Nah, I think you can. But not by the usual ways. You'll have to pay a harder price than anyone else, kid. I'm sorry.
Sorry? A blatant lie. Rhy Shen smelled that. He left his inner core to rot, buried where no light could reach. His eyes opened again, but Lumen was gone. Silence pressed in on the nightly chamber. For all her irritating habits, Lumen's absence unsettled Rhy Shen far more than her presence. Each moment kept stretching unbearably as he strained for any sign of the others, any hint that he was not utterly forsaken. And then, slowly, clarity came. Paying a higher price than everyone else was exactly what he was meant for. Rhy Shen exhaled, a long, steady breath, and instead of recoiling from the darkness, he let it settle into him. When Rhy Shen opened his eyes, Lumen was gone. Yet her burnt scent still clung to the reddish glow of the morning sun. In her place, a new, uninvited guest barged in.
Ah! Bloody hell. Morning arrival.
Rhy Shen jerked upright on his cot, ready for a fight.
Has no one in this fucked up clown world ever heard of knocking?
Imo ignored his complaints and squared his shoulders like someone terribly important.
I've already logged the incident report and secured clearance for today's mission in the melting village. Very thorough. Very professional. You're coming with us to apologize.
You want me to apologize to the Juru? For what, exactly?
For the bomb.
It wasn't my idea to bomb the goddamn siege. I had nothing to do with this bullshit.
Uh-huh. Of course. That's why your name is first on the report.
You mean on your report?
In annoyance, Imo lifted his nose.
I do take my report seriously. Besides, the Juru are very punctual about apologies. So, shall we proceed?
Before Rhy Shen could snap another distinctive insult for an answer, his ear rang again from M's distant voice. M couldn't help but comment the discussion.
Oh, kid, how clever you must be to make your own little decisions within a complicated economical conflict in a foreign world after exactly 2 days of existing? I must say, your potential for disaster is admirable.
Meanwhile, Imo's growing impatience was written across the tight muscles of his neck.
Are you coming or what?
The mere sight of Imo's smug face was enough to make Rhy Shen's blood boil.
Fucking shit-headed asshole.
Thus, M felt the need to interrupt, before Rhy Shen's temper could spoil the next chance for his own plans to unfold.
Wait a second before you insult him again, kid. Remember the furnace you have entered in your first night? Ask Imo to bribe the Juru with the fresh charge of Ishi mirrors. Do it now.
Rhy Shen swallowed hard, unable to hide the swirl of confusion in his expression. M said it like a task, as if failing to do so would brand him a failure. He furrowed his brows and whistled.
What about the Ishi mirrors?
Oh, clever. You are learning faster than you seem, Arrival.
Imo folded his arms in a nod of respect.
The idea is not terrible. Ishi mirrors are the most valuable good outside of the guild, and the Melting Village is the most depleted place in Teel. Ha! The savages would never admit it, but they love this new technological bling-bling. Okay, hear me out.
Suddenly, Imo spoke as if it was his own idea, just as M had expected.
We'll take some Ishi mirrors with us as an offering. I'll ask Thos to hand out the recent charge. Meet you outside in 5 minutes.
Imo, confident in his new role as mission leader, wasted no time ordering another scholar to join the team as a pack mule.
Where is he? Where is he? You!
Naturally, it was poor Fethel, the one who dared to insult him just yesterday.
You owe me, Fethel!
Fuck off, Imo.
Fethel didn't even look up from the blade he was sharpening.
I swear, if you don't want to get on my list, you better join us.
Fine.
When Rhy Shen got to the bridge not more than 4 minutes later, Lumen, Faethel, and Imo already awaited him. Within minutes, the 4 of them descended westward and slipped into the shadows of the Black March forest.
Okay, group, let's see if we can blow any sense into the minds of these savages.
At the words savages, Lumen flinched once more, her eyes slicing toward Imo with a fury that could have killed him. Fortunately, his elite abilities guarded him against the murk. The trees of the Black March forest rose like phalanges of demonic hands. Their warped branches were clawing into each other against the dim morning sky. Ash from the southern volcano drifted down in lazy swirls, coating the group's shoulders and hair in a fine grey powder. Imo led the way, followed by Lumen, Rhy Shen, and Fethel. All of them, except Rhy Shen, were Atham soldiers with a rank higher than 2, each a force to be reckoned with. Rhy Shen, however, felt the forest watching. Juru scouts lingered in the shadows, tracking every footfall. The group slowed, each step measured. The only vivid sound nearby was Imo constantly complaining.
Charming, truly. Every fucking thing in this landscape is resentful. Nice home you have here, Lumen.
Don't be like that, Imo. The forest remembers violence. It has been through a lot.
No one argued. If anyone could read the scars of the land, it was the Juru hunter among them. A low, distant crack echoed through the trees. Wood splintered somewhere ahead. The group froze for a heartbeat, but nothing followed. Only ash settled on their shoulders. Heat grew stronger with every step, forcing Imo and Fethel to catch their breaths from time to time. It didn't take long for Fethel to lag behind.
Come on, Fethel! Pull yourself together.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
However, he was not trying hard enough for the mission leader. Without warning, Imo brought the back of his hand down on Fethel's head, shoving him forward. Fethel stumbled, tears already brimming in his eyes.
It's so hot.
Oh, my nerves. Enough whining!
Imo shoved him aside.
Never mind, you crybaby. I'll carry all of the Ishi mirrors to the Melting Village. By myself. Go back to the guild fortress and stop wasting our time.
He yanked the 3 trembling Ishi mirrors from Fethel's grip and hoisted them onto his own back.
Fine. I won't risk my ass for this.
Fethel gave up. Lumen didn't hold him back, but turned sharply to the group leader, Immo.
Don't expect our help after the way you dismissed him, Emo.
Don't worry, I won't. Huh?
Suddenly, Immo stopped, drawing in a slow breath.
Do you smell that?
Ugh. Disgusting.
Immo smoothed his hair coolly despite the heat.
Ha! Maybe for you. For me? It smells like winning.
He lowered his eyelids and followed his nose through the gutter of the dead land. At last, he knelt before a crooked, twisted stem rising from the ash, a flower long past its bloom.
Look at this beauty.
His eyes softened like those of a mother deer.
Not this again, Emo.
Irritated, Lumen and Rhy Shen watched Immo dig his hands into the gutter, careful not to damage any roots. He lifted the thick root of the plant like a surgeon performing a heart transplant. Then he pulled a crystal bottle from his bag and embedded the root inside.
Ha! Perfection.
You just told Fethel to fuck off because he was too slow, and now you're sitting here gardening. Why don't you use your goddamn sword if you need it?
What? Oh, heavens forbid a man has hobbies, you turd.
Immo sounded almost embarrassed.
They don't grow where I'm from. Not everything in the world is about cruelty, Arrival.
For a moment he said nothing more. Then he exhaled. The sound of a man carrying the memory of a mistake he refused to repeat.
You wouldn't get it. This will keep me from becoming what the sword is good at.
Rhy Shen wasn't sure if he wanted to find out what that meant. The three of them moved on, slower now. Meanwhile, the wind carried the faint scent of smoke and rot.
I heard the local fauna in this region is thoroughly demonic.
Demons are fauna, Emo, but the rift creatures... There's something else entirely.
She pointed northways.
See that strange light above the Juru forest? That's an unmistakable sign of a rift. A glitch in reality. Rift creatures always appear as a byproduct whenever someone tampers with sphere technology. To be honest, the sheer number of them makes me think that Bo-Yang might not be the only one experimenting with it. It is not natural. These creatures misalign the balance in Teel. They have no use here.
Everything has a use.
And everything has a price, Emo.
The snap of a branch somewhere in the distance made the group freeze at the spot. None of them spotted anything live in the ash-strewn undergrowth, but the wind carried the faint scent of smoke, rot, and something sharper, something predatory. Lumen slowed. Her eyes constantly tracked the jagged basalt ahead.
This region used to be full of ashfowls.
She frowned.
Small, lizardous demons, but harmless mostly. They lived off the lava streams underneath. You'd see them everywhere.
She gestured around them, to where the steaming cracks in the ground should have been alive with movement.
There aren't any ashfowls anymore.
Before them, the path stretched on in silence.
Something came through, and it ate them. All of them!
Only then did the absence make sense. The group came to a silent halt, every ear tuned to the darkness around them. Rhy Shen pressed his lips together. He wondered, what kind of pest could wipe out an entire species of small demons?
The sapient arrivals from the rifts. The ones that brought those creeping vermin with them. They have a name for what did this. They call them Alps.
Immo outpaced her step and took the lead.
Then Alps die first. Let's hope we see one.
Let's hope we don't.
What the hell was that?
Ha!
Lumen spun around with a raised double axe, and an Alp was already latched onto her bag. The leather was shredded by sharp claws. With terrifying precision, the creature scavenged through the interior, ripping apart the supplies and scattering bones, food, and tools.
Not the food!
Beer and sauce sprayed as the Alp chewed through the remnants of Lumen's precious supply.
Rhy Shen! Immo! Move now! Brr! When there's one, there's more!
The monster on Lumen's back forced her into a violent struggle, hissing and snapping at her throat with its claws. Every movement of hers was mirrored by the Alp. Its unnatural reflexes were a cruel reminder that this was no ordinary beast. Immo, the greatest cultivator in the arena, stood absolutely still. He didn't even touch the sheath of his sword out here.
Oh, these goddamn arrival monsters!
Lumen swung her axe to kill the beast, but it was too close, and she couldn't land a hit. In return, the creature slashed Lumen's throat. Her voice was gone for an instant, but the wound healed quickly. Red aethum light from her inner core gleamed from the cut until it transformed into a smooth line. A moment later, she sucked in air and then screamed,
Rhy Shen! Slam the hammer!
Okay then.
Rhy Shen didn't hesitate. He tried to smash the filthy beast on Lumen's back and missed her head by inches. But to no avail. The Alp was still raging, yanking out clumps of Lumen's hair for fun and stuffing them onto its own head in pure mockery. All of a sudden, an arrow struck, shot from an enormous black tree. It hit the Alp with brutal precision, leaving no other option for the injured beast but to retreat. Immo tried to get it with another fire blast from his chest, but it slipped away into the grey fog. Lumen turned toward where the arrow had come from.
Oh, thank the spirits! An outer post must be near. They will show us where the village is.
The speech bug in Rhy Shen's ear helped him understand the words, but they still didn't make much sense to him.
You mean where the village is now? It is moving?
Yes, we have 4 official entries on the surface, and the arrow came from one of them.
Immo rolled up the sleeves of his open shirt, heavily sweating but ready to make history.
So there's a good chance that the village is right beneath us. Let's say hello and offer our trade goods.
The three of them pushed through and reached the huge tree where the single arrow had come from. One single fire blast from Immo had cost him all his remaining energy. He could only breathe heavily, and his skin slowly turned more pale than Rhy Shen's.
Just a few steps more, Immo. My people will give us shelter. Maybe they have some water, too.
Lumen knew very well that there was no use for water in her home village beneath the ground, but she tried to keep Immo's hopes up, to keep him going. The outpost up on the tree was surrounded by a wall of black trunks which were tightly bound together, their peaks sharpened like spears. 3 or 4 Juru heads peeked above the trunks from the center.
Lumen! Not you again!
The lack of welcome hit Lumen like a shockwave, but the Juru people were serious.
My friends, let's be fair. I came all the way to...
Huh. Friends?
She couldn't even finish her sentence.
You might want to fuck off, Lumen. Like, right now.
Another warrior shouted from the right.
Yeah, go away, Lumen.
And another one yelled,
You have been expelled for a reason.
And that reason was obviously stupid!
Lumen raised her chin and shot back.
We have just been attacked by one of the freaks you are all trying to protect so proudly!
Mumbling came from the dry tree crown, then a hurried rustling. A broad-shouldered Juru man sprang from the tree in a wide arc and hit the ground with a landing that made the earth shudder. He looked at Lumen's fur collar in disgust and snorted.
Don't forget that we just shot one for you 5 minutes ago! So we're not protecting anything! We let things be!
His eyes wandered over to Rhy Shen, without a single muscle of his face moving.
And who the fuck are you?
Rhy Shen's eyes glinted, but he stayed silent. Immo spoke up in his place as an attempt to take control over the situation.
We want to negotiate, please.
The Juru warrior gave him no reaction. His gaze stayed fixed on the strange ghost boy in the back.
Aren't you the soul donkey fucker who just bombed away our siege wall this noon? Our soldiers are still healing. We object negotiations with you!
2 other Juru soldiers landed beside the man, only to underline his authority. Impressed, Immo turned around to Rhy Shen.
Come on, Arrival. Now it's time to apologize for your violence at the siege wall.
Rhy Shen's face darkened. This was embarrassing, for both of them.
They shot fire at us.
Hearing this audacity, the Juru warrior had to slam his fists together to restrain himself from killing the pale stranger on the spot.
We were shooting at the bomb you were directing at us!
He repeated, inwardly fuming.
The bomb!
Shitheads.
The Juru soldier crossed his arms and let a brutal grin spread across his face.
Apologize!
The words clanged through the air, stunning the group for a moment. Breathing heavily, Immo leaned on Rhy Shen's shoulder with urgent impatience.
Say it, Arrival.
Fine. I am sorry for bombing your walls. We are all very sorry, and we apologize with our hearts.
An awkward silence came over the opponent groups. Then the Juru warrior spoke.
We object your excuse! Now go!
The 3 Juru soldiers squared their shoulders, waiting for the outsiders to leave. Another soldier stayed back with his axe drawn, securing the area. For a moment, their heroic mission leader, Immo, didn't know how to proceed. It was Lumen who drew on her knowledge of her people and handled the exchange in a distinctly Juru way. As etiquette demanded, she drew back her fist with deadly momentum and slammed it squarely into her old friend's face. With the grip of her double axe, she jabbed the other 2 old acquaintances square in the ribs, making them cough up blood.
You are such a hypocrite, Kulan! Open the passage down to the village, and we'll talk to the masters ourselves!
Only a moment later, the 3 had already recovered and lined up once more, their faces somehow darker than before.
Ha ha ha! Have you taken a look at your mortal recently?
He pointed a thumb at the wheezing Immo.
He is going to die down there!
Immo is strong!
We had another mortal here a few days ago. If you have anything to do with this nosy bastard from the Ochintis dynasty, you can dismiss yourself right away, or we'll do it for you!
Immo's eyes widened, and at one go, a cold shudder came from Rhy Shen's speech bug, running down his spine. The name Ochintis dynasty meant something to both, Immo and M. In this absurd standoff, only M dared give voice to his thoughts.
Forget Kulan. He is a stubborn and incredibly stupid simp. If another mortal was already here, we have other problems now. It would be wise to go down to the village to find out what this mortal was looking for, and if he found it.
Immo thought the same.
So, how does that sit with you,
He set the Ishi mirrors down from his shoulders, and the eyes of the three Juru lit up with greedy anticipation.
Are these?
Yes, beholder-type Ishi mirrors, fresh from the guild's furnace. You could have 3. I bet you're already wondering what you'll see in yours. Huh?
Immo knew this tiny bit of entertainment would prove far too tempting for the bumpkin Juru from the melting village, which was basically the ass end of the world as far as natives like him were concerned.
Holy ground! Let me think. Give us 4 Ishi mirrors, and we'll let you pass.
No.
The mission leader stood his ground.
Come on! We need 4! 1 for each of us! Plus free passage and water for you, mortal! You look like you need some!
Now it's only 2 mirrors.
Immo's confident stance gave away that he was not bluffing.
What? But what if...
2 mirrors. Take it or leave it.
The melting village didn't have the capacity to produce something like that. But sneaking into someone else's story was too tempting for the ever-living Juru. Kulan and his companions exchanged a wary glance.
Fine. 2! Give us 2 mirrors, and you can go!
Immo stayed still, eyes locked. After a tense, long, and awkward pause, he nodded. Minutes later, Rhy Shen, Immo, and Lumen passed through and disappeared into a hole beneath the dry tree.
Let's hope that we don't have to wait for the savage village down there for too long. We negotiate, and then we leave. No other unnecessary discussions or stops, you understand me, Lumen?
Keep calm, Immo.
Even if I get water in time, it's not going to be a cakewalk down there. At least not for me.
There was a reason why there was only one mortal that had ever passed the melting village before them, and Immo and the others were about to find out. The deeper Rhy Shen, Lumen, and Immo went into the tunnel, the slower became Immo's movements. As the only mortal in the group, the heat from the walls was unbearable for him. As soon as the tunnel they followed met open space again, a voice shouted,
"Lumen! Not you again!" Grrr. It's her. Lumen came back.
Every guardian in the melting village seemed to think the same about Lumen. The message was unmistakable. She was not welcome in her underground hometown.
Grrr! Lumen is here. Send her away!
The news spread over the terraces and balconies in the cave, and it took only seconds for everyone in the melting village to know they were there. Some of the village's homes were carved into sheer rock walls and pillars. Others seemed absurdly suspended on floating islands above the ceaselessly bubbling magma. After a brief wait, the correct path finally drifted past. It was guiding them to a broad stairway on the cave's opposite side. Volcanic heat steamed up on both sides of the path.
Immo, are you okay?
Yes. Totally fine.
Immo sank to one knee. This was his moment to prove himself as a leader. And yet, there he was, kneeling like a complete fool. He gritted his teeth, hauled himself up, and promptly sank back down again, as if the world were enjoying the joke.
I told you, Immo. This is idiocracy. Come on.
Lumen grabbed the Ishi mirrors, draped Immo's arm over her shoulders, and carried him the rest of the way, even up the obsidian black steps leading to the masters. The authority of the melting village awaited them along a long stone table. Each of them was the most powerful cultivator from his clan. Their eyes were as black as the steps leading up to them. Lumen aimed to propose their offering for peace, but the first master stopped her with a raised hand before she could say a word.
We don't speak to certain people here, and they know why. So, who is your speaker?
Immo sagged against Lumen's shoulder, barely conscious, a pitiful heap of ambition and failure. Clearly, he was of no use. Saw a chance in that.
Kid, this is one of those moments where silence costs more than courage. Just saying.
I said, who is your speaker?
Rhy Shen's feet scraped the floor as he stepped forward as the new mission leader. He inclined his head politely, with his arms crossed behind his back.
Ahem. That would be me.
Immo cast Rhy Shen a sidelong glance, still too slumped to make a sound. The masters sat there like stones, unblinking and utterly unamused. Silence stretched, thick and oppressive.
So, as far as I'm concerned,
Rhy Shen stammered to buy himself some time.
you built the siege as some sort of economic protest, right? To stop the Alchemist Guild from doing what, exactly?
Instead of giving the unworthy an answer, the first Juru master leaned forward over the table.
Who is this clown?
The old master next to him urged restraint with a calm gesture of his hand and answered Rhy Shen's question.
We oppose the Guild's method of harnessing Aethum. That is all.
He leaned back in contemplation.
The world provides whatever we require. There is no need to take life for advantage. Mortals won't ever understand.
Slowly, Rhy Shen realized that this world suffered from a familiar problem, the distribution of power, just like his homeworld. As he had learned the hard way, every world possessed only a limited amount of Aethum to distribute, but not this world. Teel stood as a hidden well of living energy, ceaselessly tapped by immortal beings who had never known death. Elsewhere, achieving such immortality required a cultivator to wield Aethum equal to that of a whole planet. Rhy Shen exhaled sharply.
You have big mouths for people who are immortal by nature.
Not a single finger moved along the long stone table. Shadows crept over the masters' faces until Rhy Shen could no longer tell who was speaking.
I don't think you understand who you are addressing, young man.
It sounded like a threat from the masters, but Rhy Shen refused to be intimidated, by all means.
I don't care who I'm talking to. I'm just an arrival. This shouldn't concern me at all. And yet, here we are.
A thin smile flickered from the shadows where the masters sat and listened.
Interesting.
Suddenly, the voice of the Juru master was smooth and polished.
Tell us then, Lumen, if you are so committed to keeping this land clean, so willing to spill blood when necessary, why do you hesitate to kill this one outright?
The entire table seemed to press down on her. Lumen lowered her head, jaw tight, shoulders rigid.
He's different.
Another master spoke up. Rhy Shen could only see his interlaced fingers under the dim light.
Killing by any measure is beneath immortals such as us. It is our duty to let others be.
The weight of the lecture settled heavily into the chamber. Then Lumen lifted her head. Her eyes were sharp with a menacing glow, much like the eyes of a tiger mid-pounce.
That's why you'll never get to the moon! Fools.
The tension that followed confirmed she had hit a nerve.
Have you even heard of Sun 2? They are building something great over there. With it, we'll finally find out what's beyond the Ago Sea.
A faint glimmer of hope lit her eyes.
We could open new ground after eons of rotting here in Teel. And you? You are only concerned about some crooked Alps.
A faint murmur rippled across the table, like a current moving beneath black glass. One of the masters curled his lip with a cold expression in his eyes.
Pah! That is exactly what the last modernist said when he stood here.
He waved as if he was trying to wipe Lumen from his view. In the same instant, a quiet voice brushed Rhy Shen's ear.
Ask them. Ask if it was Armath Orson.
Rhy Shen tilted his head and considered for a moment. The name meant nothing to him. And why, for fuck's sake, did M even have to ruin every damn moment he was trying to prove himself? Rhy Shen hissed back.
Why don't you ask them yourself about this goddamn Armath Orson? Sounds like a motherfucker anyway.
Immo glanced at Rhy Shen as if he had failed the mission irreversibly.
Where in all the world have you heard that name?
The reaction was immediate. It seemed that the magma chamber froze for a moment. Armath Orson's name hung in the air like a death sentence, fatal and promising all at once. Cold indifference collapsed into a tense, brittle silence.
So?
Aware of the sudden weight his words carried, Rhy Shen pressed on with caution.
Say it. Was Armath Orson here? The
masters exchanged a slow, deliberate glance. One finally answered, voice low and edged with warning.
What do you know of such people, Arrival? Mind your curiosity.
Another master from the right side of the table leaned toward his peers, whispering just loud enough to be heard.
We should ban the mortals from Mizar and Alcor as well.
The others agreed with ease.
Yes, without hesitation. Phew.
Clearly, we cannot afford risks.
Before the guards could shepherd them out, Rhy Shen remembered the Ishi mirrors that Immo had brought.
Wait. We have something for you. This is a gift from the guild, for your entertainment.
His speech bug vibrated from M's laughter.
Nice idea for a dumb fish. Leave them the gifts. These are good door openers nowadays, especially for outcasts like them.
Rhy Shen disguised his ghostly form as good as he could, so he just pointed at the pile of mirrors on Immo's back. Had he been longer in this world, he would have known that high-priced bribes were absolutely useless in the melting village. Nevertheless, the first master stood up and straightened his neck.
Fine. You have heard our decision, Arrival. The sieges will cease. In return, you and anyone who has ever set foot in the guild are banned from all Juru settlements, including the twin capital. In fact, all mortals are banned beginning now.
His gaze hardened further.
We do not wish to see your poacher faces in Mizar or Alcor when we get there. Do you understand? Spread the word. And if we ever witness you or anyone else taking a life, beware of our wrath.
M whispered to Rhy Shen with a last, urgent assignment.
Make sure they also get the Ishi mirror you tilted with a hair of yours. We can have a peek into it later.
Rhy Shen didn't question the voice in his ear and pointed at the Ishi mirrors with all the solemnity of a diplomat.
6 mirrors. They're all yours.
Lumen saw what Rhy Shen shot at, and her fierce grin came back. She knew very well that immortals, like her people, knew the real worth of a little bit excitement. Even the masters couldn't withstand such a clever piece of fun and joy. Nonetheless, Lumen sensed it. The ceasefire they had arranged was nothing more than a straw fire. The Juru from down here would trade the mirrors in Alcor or use them for their own, and the next siege would start. It was only a matter of time before these conservative Juru would seize the wrong Atham farming soldier killing monsters. For now, though, silence reigned between the Juru and the guild. Far more troubling was the fact that mortals were searching for something down here, and Lumen knew that it was only a matter of time before the biggest Juru secret was uncovered. Even if she and her people had different mindsets, they had to protect the land and its secrets at all costs. In the twilight of the day, the three guild scholars emerged back from the cave. Immo trailed behind like a half-deflated balloon. His eyes were glowing red, and his skin still had a bluish tone. Rhy Shen couldn't resist poking Immo's sweaty cheeks.
Well done, Immo. You're a real diplomat. Don't forget to write that down in your report.
Shut up, turd.
The Tale of Rhy Shen. Chapter 6. The Better Story.
Hey, kid. Hey, Rhy Shen. Are you asleep,
I don't sleep, Im.
Good for you. What are you thinking about,
Rhy Shen rolled over on his bed and tried to cover his ears with the pillow.
Is this a date or something? Seriously, Em. Leave me alone, man. It's midnight and I just went through an underground hell.
Literal hell. And interpersonal hell, too. Being the center of attention all the time gnawed at him more viciously than any molten fire. But Rhy Shen wisely kept that to himself.
Pull yourself together for a second and listen. Someone's about to interrupt us any second. So, what do you think about your first encounter with the Juru? You might have noticed that eternal life does not come with eternal wisdom.
M's voice rang in Rhy Shen's ears, no matter how well he covered them, so he gave up and tried to relax his muscles.
The Juru from the melting village are exquisitely socially awkward, which makes them easy targets for manipulation.
M didn't say this without a hint of true concern in his voice.
Why are they so concerned about mortals?
Oh, I have my suspicions that they are just concerned about certain individual mortals. And that is not without cause.
Wide awake, Rhy Shen stared at the bare walls of his chamber, where the rippling shimmer of the Argo Sea had not yet returned.
The Juru fear a mortal? You mean the guy who went to the melting village before us, don't you? What did he want there?
He is an elite soldier from the Ochintis dynasty. That is all you need to know, dumb fish. Few people in Teel hold a rank as high as his. More interesting than the incident itself was the reaction of the Juru. You may have noticed they immediately closed entry for all mortals to their twin capital, which is quite the reaction to a single visit, if you ask me.
And what? They ended their protest. That's a win, isn't it?
Oh, your speech bug may have more intelligence than your brain, you stupid foghead. Why would protesters suddenly change their morals without gaining anything if they... Psst. Do you hear that? Someone is coming. and I'd be surprised if it isn't Thos. Listen, kid. The Juru are obviously hiding something, and we have to make sure the alchemists don't find out. Especially not Thos.
In that instant, someone knocked on the door.
Rhy Shen? Are you awake?
I knew it. Thos is such a predictable buttface. Don't tell him anything the Juru Master said, kid.
Warm light from the furnace in the main lab spilled into the chamber and reflected in Rhy Shen's eyes. He sat up in his bed like a dark shadow. His hammer rested against the wall, within reach. Thos drew a chair forward and placed it in front of the bed, lowering himself so he could meet the ghostly arrival eye to eye.
My dear Rhy Shen, I was hoping to find you doing well. How was your first journey outside the guild? You like it here in Teel?
I haven't seen much but dead trees and a rift monster.
Rhy Shen didn't need M's cryptic warnings to notice it. Thos spoke to him as if he was somehow beneath him. Then again, M himself was hardly blameless when it came to talking down to others.
Yeah, I heard about the Alps. Shame you couldn't kill one and bring its atom back in a charm stone. Imo Silvas has already submitted a detailed report, but it appears he remembers very little of what happened down in the melting village. I was hoping you could fill in the gaps.
Thos rhythmically tapped his pencil against his notepad, thinking. It seemed M had been right about Thos. This alchemist was so arrogant, he didn't even bother hiding that he meant to use Rhy Shen.
Why don't you ask Lumen about the negotiations? Or at least someone who gives a shit. I have nothing to do with the damn Juru or anyone here.
Good question, kid. Maybe you're not a completely lost cause after all. Now, watch him lie.
The pencil kept tapping against the notepad, faster now. For a heartbeat, Rhy Shen wondered whether Thos could somehow hear M inside his head. Then the alchemist spoke.
Lumen may be a libertine, but she's still Juru. I doubt she'd share anything useful, even if she knew something at all. But you are different, aren't you? Where do you stand in this world, ghost boy?
He made a pause to scrutinize Rhy Shen once more. Then he changed his tone abruptly.
Never mind. I'll be direct and honest with you.
Bullshit.
M groaned quietly in Rhy Shen's ear while Thos leaned closer. His voice remained calm and dry, yet carried an unmistakable authority.
Tell me, ghost boy, have you heard of the Aeon Fire since your arrival?
A heavy hush unfurled between them. Rhy Shen felt the very air in the room recoil at the word.
Oh shit, Rhy Shen. Holy shitty hell. They already know about the Aeon Fire. That's bad, kid. Very bad.
Thos laid the pencil down and turned his right hand, palm facing up. The jeweled gauntlet across his hand shimmered, and a small flame bloomed over the red gem embedded in his palm. His eyes disappeared behind the bright reflection on his glasses.
Since you have a special connection to this fascinating element, I thought you should know about the Monarch of Flames. It is simply a fairy tale. The tale of a living flame with its own soul, inextinguishable and too wild to be tamed by a master. Very nice story.
Through lowered eyelids, Rhy Shen stared at the flame in Thos's hand.
Why are you telling me this story in the middle of the night, old man?
Well,
Tos clenched a fist and extinguished the flame on his palm. His eyes came back from the shadows, glaring at Rhy Shen.
I, personally, think a good story is made of a true core with some untrue elements. Would you agree?
Rhy Shen could only nod, with a slight frown on his face.
I guess so.
Aha! It's not too far-fetched to imagine a fire with a soul. But there's one thing about that story that's nagged at me since I first heard it. Over 55 years ago. Listen closely. In this universe, there's nothing that can't be tamed. Now, suppose such an eternally burning flame did exist at some point in the past, right here on this peninsula. It would have found a master sooner or later. Someone who knew how to lock it up and sap from its power. Tell me, does that version sound more believable than the old Juru tale to you? I wonder if the Juru simply chose the better story to tell.
Rhy Shen's mind raced until his thoughts collided and fractured. He could feel the idea coming before Thos even spoke it aloud. A sharp stone settled in the pit of his stomach as realization clicked into place. The undying Juru could have sealed such a natural source of Atham energy for their own benefit.
You mean there is an Aeon fire? But the tale of the wild, free, and happy flame is just a tale.
Exactly.
Thos's lips curved, approving but calm.
Very perceptive arrival. And more than that, I suspect their source is endless, like the sun itself. That is the foundation from which the immortals cultivate, and why they never grant us the endless power they enjoy for themselves. As soon as we launch Sun 2, we'll be equal with them anyway.
The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken warnings. M's voice cut through, sharp and cold.
Don't be fooled, kid. He will lead you where you're not ready to go.
Thos came even closer to Rhy Shen's face and wiped through it with his fingers, causing Rhy Shen's mimic to blur. Once more.
You are dissolving more intensely every day. Probably you are too unstable to survive the next few weeks.
When Rhy Shen pulled himself back together, his face was drawn tight with a fury that seemed ready to break loose. He swore to himself that if Thos would do that just once more, he'd smash his head with his Juru hammer.
Anyway, the masters down in the melting village, do you think they liked you?
Not so much.
That hurts, doesn't it? Have you asked yourself if you are immortal too, Ghost Boy? I would like to know, to be honest. Because if you are, it will be much easier for you to gain trust over the immortals. Oh, as we speak of it, what did they want in exchange for ending their sieges exactly? I suppose you couldn't convince them of modern Atham farming.
This question was dangerous to answer. Rhy Shen sensed it even without a hint from M. He took a deep breath that stretched the silence.
I didn't promise them anything, if you mean that.
Thos leaned back slightly with narrowing eyes behind his glasses.
Good. Evasive. Clever. Your silence tells me far more than your answers ever would. A friend of yours has already whispered about the ban on mortals in the sacred cities Mizar and Alcor. And that, Ghost Boy, is exactly where you need to go. There, if anywhere, you will learn whether the Aeon Fire truly exists. And if it does, I suspect it is bound to your blessed little condition. Neither dead nor alive. If that's true,
he smiled, thin,
then you will bring it here.
The new task landed on Rhy Shen like the desert heat at noon. Relentless and impossible to escape. M exploded in his ear.
No! Say no, kid.
His secret master seriously threatened him through the speech bug.
I swear, if you agree to this moronic, dead-ass plan, I will follow you around and find a way to beat your ghost butt for all eternity.
Rhy Shen stared at Thos. The alchemist's eyes were calm and confident, as if everything that mattered had already been decided.
All right. I'll go where you want.
N let out a strangled sound, somewhere between a scream and a sob.
Oh, you brain-rotted idiot. You walking disaster. I can't wrap my head around what a hopeless loser you are. Because if you had a single functioning brain cell left, you would have listened to me, kid.
Thos rose smoothly from the chair, satisfied. As he gave the next directives, M was still raging in Rhy Shen's ear.
Excellent.
You half-witted, loathsome clown.
I'll make the preparations.
Execrable fool. Always running to help those fumbling alchemists.
Ghost Boy, you'll leave for the twin capital at dawn. Immo Silvas and a group of scholars are going to await you at the bridge when the sun rises over the Ago Sea in the east.
Left your common sense
They'll have further instructions on how to proceed once you're in Mizar. Toodaloo, Ghost Boy. Try not to get lost.
The door of the chamber closed behind Thos and left Rhy Shen in the dark. Only M's never-ending insults in his ear kept him company.
Odious. Deplorable. You are an opportunistic piece of dung, Rhy Shen.
From his vantage point, M couldn't see Rhy Shen taking the hammer from the wall, or perhaps he was simply too furious to notice.
Yeah, maybe. Now please shut up, M. I'm trying to concentrate here.
Shit-brained.
All at once, M's rain of insults stopped. His irritation was almost audible in the silence.
Concentrate on what? You don't look very concentrated.
M had no time to finish his chatter. Rhy Shen had already blown a gaping hole into the front window of his chamber and leapt through the shards without a grain of fear.
I'm done with this shithole of a guild!
A moment later, he disappeared into the desert night.
Splendid. More vandalism. I should have seen that one coming.